Welcome back, everybody, to the Pixel Candy Podcast, our weekly podcast covering everything on the latest in gaming, news, movies, television, and pretty much all things nerdy. I'm your host, Alan Sensich, and I'm here with my returning co-host, as always, the controller snapping Senchacho, Mr. Braga85. Brian, it's episode 100. Can you believe that we actually made it? And now people can see our ugly mugs.
I know. I'm surprised that in 100 episodes I never actually snapped a controller. And there have been some times.
There have been some off-air times. Getting audio not going and then shitting the bed. Where you were on the verge. I think if you had one in hand, it would have been.
I'm talking about playing games, man. I tried to play Returnal 9 times this year and almost snapped several DualSenses trying to just play that game. I'm just not for the Souls likes. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
You'll get to it one day.
It's not good. I'm old. I got these old bones. These old hands can't move fast enough.
I'm feeling that too. Trust me, the arthritis in the hands is a real thing, not to be joked about.
But anyways, episode 100. This,
yes.
Listen, we've talked about this before. We're going to introduce everybody else because I'm really excited. Very few podcasts make it past episode 3, and we should pull up the stats at some point. Very few podcasts make it past episode 3. Even fewer make it past 10. We're in the top 0.001% for making it to 100. I mean, crazy. So Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully you're entertained if you've been listening for 100 episodes.
Yeah,
you got a problem.
And to anyone watching this, because this is the thing, this is the first episode. If you are listening to this, we are recording this, it'll be on YouTube. If you're listening, so you can check it out. And I don't know if you don't know what we've looked like and you want to see that, here we are.
Do we match our voices?
Yeah, because that's always a trippy thing. Hearing a voice for a long time and then matching the face doesn't always go well. But I don't know who, this is the thing, trying to get an audience that listens to a podcast to now watch a podcast. I'm honestly anticipating that no one watches this, but that is okay because that's what I thought about the podcast in general. And here we are.
Well, for the ones who are watching, let's introduce the other two.
Yes. Of course, returning to celebrate today, we have none other than the Curly J. Are you ready for this? The JG. The covert late night chorizo grill cheese maker, the one and only Curly Juice Garcia. What's going on?
Oh, hello. Wow, what a great intro still.
Yes.
It's very true still. Thank you for bringing me back again. I'm very excited to hear what this list comes down to. And I am so confused because if we've never had a real controller snap on on air, I guess. I want to know when you did. I want to know if that
did you? This is we're alluding to the fact you have the anger within to just do it, but I don't think you've done it. Have you?
You remember Alex Rupolo?
Yes.
Alex Rupolo shattered a controller once, throwing it at the wall. And it was shortly after that I got upset playing that same game. I don't even remember what it was. I think, you know what it was? What's that one?
Toy Story 2 for PlayStation 1. That game is absolutely infuriating.
No, what's the one? Hunted. What's that one where you're in the shadows and you have to take you're some guy's watching you through cameras.
Oh, Manhunt.
We were playing Manhunt on the hardest difficulty. He threw a controller at the wall, and the next day I snapped a PS3 controller in half. So that's, I think, where it comes from. But also, the reason you gave me that name is because I would talk about how I almost wanted to snap a controller from every difficult point from that point on.
Yes.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad there's something there. I'm glad. Was it horizontal or was it vertical? What are we dealing with?
I feel like cracking it horizontally, you'd have to be Kratos to do that. It was definitely vertically, down the controller. Perfect. Down the middle. If that's vertically, I guess. The other way, that is.
Well, I feel if you're throwing it, an underhand boomerang type toss would be a real good one to just whip it into a wall and have it stick out.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
But of course, last and not least, a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine, coming back for the 100th episode. It wouldn't be the 100th episode if you didn't come back for this. So, of course, the Ginger Ninja, the Got Too Much Kush. It's his favorite name he's ever used.
You gotta retire that name. Get rid of it.
Mr. Bricks and
new.
You've leveled up. You had Mr. Bricks and Bottles. The Friendly Red Fox is now kind of your current one, which I really dig. Mr. Derek Legasic. What's going on, man?
Thank you. Good to be back, man. Yeah, like you said, it wouldn't be the same. I've been following it since episode 1. You guys were just in your infancy, and it's crazy that you guys have stuck it out and built out what we have here today. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yes, we were little podcast babies, and I don't know, what would you call like 100s? Are we like the geezers? Are we like at the teenage stage? According to Brian's stat, I feel like we're at some sort of stage of life we can mirror, but I don't know.
Basically Joe Rogan. Basically Joe Rogan.
No, I don't know if I want.
I don't know if we want to identify there.
If it comes with a $100 million contract to Spotify, then yes, I am Joe Rogan. Other than that, I don't know.
Other than that, a little bit problematic.
Yes, but everyone, welcome to the show. So this is the 100th episode. Not only are we celebrating today, I don't know, did y'all bring a drink? Can we like virtually, can we do like a cheers right to the center if we were to clink, 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 clink.
We're at different centers.
I didn't, but yeah, we were probably all at different centers. That's a very good point. But yeah, this is the 100th episode, and what we thought we could do today, which I think is really exciting because it coincides with kind of the Game of the Year talk and all this, is a collective Pixel Candy top 10 of 2023. Now, spoiler alert, it's actually a top 18 because I have some leftover games that didn't like make that top 10, and they were kind of stragglers, but I'll go through those last. And the way that we did this, I told each of you to give me your 10 favorite games of the year, 1 to 10, all weighted. So obviously your game of the year being number 1, 10 points, your 10th game being 1. So at the end of this, it all worked out. We have a list of our collective top 10. I'll go through the stragglers once we're done, and we're going to go through this list, talk about what we love. It's a good fucking list. It was a really good game, or a good year for games. Like, looking at this, you look at this list compared to any other year. We've said it a million times on this show. This has been the best year for gaming by far. Yeah. Not so much the industry. It's in shambles right now, but hopefully that bounces back soon. So before we get to the list, I'm going to go through. We'll maybe have you guys guess what you think it is. We'll go through each title. I need to make like an honorary mention. It's not on this list anywhere. No one voted for it. But I have to, just before we jump into this collective thought here, Lethal Company.
Oh, yeah. I'm hearing some things.
Okay. Like, honorary mention of the most honorary. This fucking game has given me some of the best content I have ever seen. Like, not even just playing it. I've played it for like only a few hours, but the content that is coming out on like TikTok, on Instagram, the clips of this game. Has everyone seen and familiar with this game? I know Josh is.
Yeah, just the one clip you sent me. You said don't watch anything else. Wait till you play it. So
when you get your PC back, we are going to download this game. I'm still not going to tell you much about it other than really need to know stuff, because it is such a pure flash in the pan of like, I know it's a Phasmophobia clone. I know the comparisons and all that, but this game is so fucking unique. Josh and I have played it twice, I think now.
Yeah, like a pair of times.
And it's just unpredictable, and that's why the clips that come out of this game are some of the most memorable things ever. It's a spooky game, but it's a silly game, and maybe it's not game of the year, especially in 2023. But I gotta just shout this game out because holy shit! For what is it, $12.99 on Steam? It's super cheap.
Yeah. It's like $12.99. It's hit more than 100,000 concurrent players. Yeah. At the same time. Like, that's an insane number. And then all like above all, it's made by a solo dev. It's just this 21-year-old kid that was just like, yeah, I'm gonna put this thing together.
I heard on Steam.
Absolutely killing it.
I heard on Steam it's selling better than Call of Duty, which is kind of fucking crazy.
Saw that too.
Easily.
Yeah.
Call of Duty's not doing too well right now. But it's impressive.
I mean, they're definitely looking. Can you imagine? The fucking execs over there are definitely looking at Lethal Company and losing their minds and going back to their team being like, why can't we do this? And they're like, again, it's a flash in the pan. It was like, what other games have done this, right? Like Rocket League back in the day came out and blew everyone away. And that game still crushes. Fortnite was another one. But then there's games like Fall Guys that came out and just like overtook the world. There's just these games that come out and everyone loses their mind over. And whether they stick around or they don't, they're just really memorable. And this has been one of them.
Roblox looks like somebody fell on a keyboard and that's how they developed it. And that,
Well,
that
you can
game-
make other games in
I know.
Roblox, though.
And it's
that
coded
look really
well, and it's
good.
a sandbox. I'm just saying, everything I see in Roblox looks like ass, and that thing is incredibly popular.
It's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, like-
Grayson watches other kids play Roblox, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy. I mean, Minecraft is literally Lego, just didn't have the licensing, and it's the highest selling game of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, insane. You don't need to. It doesn't always need to be AAA graphics. And
No, this is
all
the thing.
narrative and
So,
all this stuff.
Lethal Company, and Josh, you actually have some insight into this. I believe the way you were talking about it. It's a terrible looking game, but you were explaining the other day. To Brian's point, like, it's fun as fuck. So who cares? It's using. You were saying, is it just using like Unity assets? Like, it's not really using a lot of like hand built anything.
Yeah, it's just by one dude. I can't remember it off the top of my head the name of the developer, but everything's got just been like essentially like open source free stuff that you can use through the Unity store, and then just all the programming is done by him, and like that's why it has so much variety in gameplay. But like, you know, in terms of like fidelity and stuff, it's not the most up there, but it gets away with like a lot of style, a lot of grace.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, like, have you guys seen that game, The Outer Wilds?
Yes.
Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
It has a similar art style. Fidelity is not there. That's like my favorite game ever. It's amazing, but it's like in the same vein. It's like they're not trying to go for that. It's more
Right.
like your feeling, like with Lethal Company.
The unpredictability, that's what it comes down to. So yeah, wanted to mention that because, man, what a fucking good game. I want to move on to the list here, and I'm going to start with number 10. Does anyone have any guesses of where we're landing right off the get-go? What landed at 10? Who what do you think?
We all played different games. I feel
This is the thing, right? That's why this list, I think you can all predict what the list will be. Where they sit, I don't know. You might have a little more trouble with that.
I don't know, like RE4.
Okay.
I was gonna guess that, but I'm guessing that's gonna be higher.
I think that's gonna be
Okay.
higher. Yeah.
All right.
Just
I don't
because
know. It might be,
I-
but there was
I
a
know this
lot
fan
of
base.
games.
I see the people in this room, and I'm like, that's getting at least top
Yeah,
five.
accurate.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna say Tears of the Kingdom because I know Brian hasn't played that.
Okay.
on my
I
list.
wasn't the hottest on it, but you guys were, so I'm thinking it's gonna make the top 10 for sure. But I don't think it's gonna be super high.
Okay. Are you all ready for this? Baldur's Gate 3 is number 10
Oh wow,
What?
that's because
That's
a
just
on our
couple of us
list.
That's
I
'cause-
haven't played it.
yeah, that's because 3 of the 4 of us didn't play
It's
it.
yes, that is exactly why. And full transparency, I can break down all these numbers so you have more insight into how this works. That was my number 2, and that was the hardest choice, like, ever. I think we all know what number 1 is. Come on, that was the hardest thing. And honestly, at the end of the day, like, they're two different games. It's really hard to pin them against each other. But for the fun of this list, I was like, holy fuck! I've never had such two amazing, unforgettable gaming experiences come out so close to one another. Like, I kind of went from one right into the other.
Yeah.
And man, Baldur's Gate 3, Josh, I asked you when this came out if you had played it because I remember you talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like a Dungeons and Dragons complete virgin. I knew nothing about the lore. I literally picked up what I knew from 2 episodes of Community, and I think Stranger Things, and when Rick and Morty makes fun of it. That is like my only knowledge. And then the movie came out, and the movie's fantastic. Brian, have you watched it? I know Derek watched it.
No, I haven't watched it.
Honestly, watch it. It's a really
It's
good
a
movie.
good time. It's a really good time.
Yeah. So going into this game, I was like, okay, I'm waiting for it to drop on PS5. Didn't have the PC at the time, and it took a month after launch to come to console. So I'm like waiting and waiting. And I don't know what. I wasn't playing much. It was like a back catalog month. So I start diving deep into not only Baldur's Gate 3, but like, what is Dungeons and Dragons? How does it work? What's the rule set? And like, I spent a month, but I've never done this in a game where I know absolutely nothing. And like, we talk about 2023 being the year it was. This game just came out of nowhere. And now I find myself reading and learning all these things. I almost got so hyped for something I didn't even have it in my hands. I didn't play the game. It was like, Brian, it was like me saying Jurassic Park was my favorite movie as a kid, not even having seen it, all over again. I got so excited to get my fucking hands on this game. And then I did, and that's a lot of pressure to like put on anything. And it smashed it out of the park. This is one of like, and listen, I know a lot of people aren't into medieval this or that, magical fantasy, whatever you want to call it, right? It's kind of a turnoff for a lot of people. Give this game a shot, because the narrative path that this game takes and who you want to stick with and see their story through to the end, or maybe you can just kind of, you know, see a few characters all at once and dive in between them. But the way it splits off is so rewarding. There's so much character development. I think I've said before, the actual story, if you want to think like in a 3-act structure of like the overarching story, it's nothing to write home about. It's really just the moment-to-moment choices, the characters that you bring along with you for the journey, seeing them grow, seeing your own character go through a whole bunch of shit. Absolutely amazing. Josh, is it Divinity Original Sin 2? Is that same?
Yeah,
that's Larian.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of another game. That is Larian Studios, right?
Yeah, it's their game that they made before Baldur's Gate 3.
And it's not Dungeons and Dragons though.
No.
It's like their own complete from the ground up IP.
Yeah. Larian put together Divinity across, I think it's like 5 games, something like that. Like, it was another classic, like, PC, like, you know, exactly what Baldur's Gate is. And then now they're like, all right, so now that Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 was so many years before, and then when Stadia came out, they were like, let's do Baldur's Gate 3, and let's make it a Stadia exclusive.
I forgot that was the original pitch. You told me that, which is insane.
It's at the original Stadia, like, pitch that they did. Like, you could see, it's like Baldur's Gate 3. That was like a really big deal. And at that point, Larian was doing really well. And then seeing what they've done with Baldur's Gate 3, I'm not shocked at all. It's not like a massive team. Like, they're around the world. They're a remote studio. But they have just some of the best, like, they have, like, patience on working on stuff. They have just really passionate writers and game designers that are like, how do we make this feel personalized, and how do we make it feel rewarding for people who maybe are taking this route and this route and this route and this route? Like, I guarantee when I get to play it, I'm going to have a totally different route as you. Like,
it'll feel like an almost different game. There's going to be those pillar moments, but yeah, you will have, and we say this as gamers all the fucking time, but I really do believe, unless we just make very similar choices every step of the way, you'll have a similar experience, but depending on the character you choose, depending on the class and the subclass and the route that you take, and who's in your party the whole time, and how does that affect, like, who is it that won at the Golden Joysticks? Astarion. I don't know the actor's name, but he won for the best lead role or something like that, whatever the award was for his part. He was never in my party. I had him join, and listen, he's fantastic. Like, I legit cannot wait to play it again, because I'm going to be playing a new game. It's going to feel like a sequel because I'm going to bring him on board. I'm going to bring 2 other characters that I didn't really give the time of day to. And those are stories. Like, in any other game, that would be a DLC pack, you know? Like, the DLC for Astarion, have him join your party and experience a whole new storyline. It's like, well, that's just there. You can do that whenever. I could have done that at any point in the game. I just chose not to because I loved my characters. So it's crazy that this is number 10, because I think this is going to be the main game of the year for a lot of people. The biggest thing was how this disrupted the industry. If anyone was paying attention when this came out, to everything you said, Josh, about like this team and kind of having the patience to like focus on stuff that like really matters, they built a game that shows they are fucking crazy passionate about Dungeons and Dragons and game development, and merged the two into this ridiculously just passionate project. And the whole industry, kind of like what we were saying with Lethal Company and like Call of Duty, like the Clash, they all looked to it and they were like, what the fuck? Because they're not a AAA studio, are they? Would they be classified as one, or does it get murky?
We're getting in the weeds at this point.
Yeah,
they're an indie studio. They don't have a publisher, and like,
that's the point I'm getting at, where the industry all looked at that like as factual information and went like, what the fuck what are we doing, and how did they do that? And there was a whole discourse. At the end of the day, I think it was a good thing, because they made a fucking good game. And I really hope that the only thing that comes out of this is more people just pick up on some of the design choices, some of the things they put out, because it's good. Who here, other than Josh, because he said he's already going to get it, plans on playing this?
Yeah, I'm picking
Derek,
it
you
up
said?
as soon as I can get it on sale.
Okay.
Like you said about like the fantasy and not being really into that, and someone giving it a shot. That's where I'm at. I'm not into fantasy games in the slightest. I've tried many, and even though like some of the greats of like Skyrim and The Witcher, I've enjoyed those games for quite a bit. I'm not as high on them as a lot of other people. So putting $100 down on Baldur's Gate 3, which is not only a gamble with fantasy, but also a gamble with a brand new system of games like and mechanics that I don't know. So it's something that I'm looking forward to. And honestly, with everything you've said, if I had have played it by now, it likely would have made my list and would have been fairly high up at least like in the middle of the list. And I think that would have bumped this thing up quite a bit. It wouldn't have been sitting at a number 10 spot.
Well, it's always good to have something to look forward to, right? Brian, I can almost guarantee you won't.
Can't think of anything I want to do less.
It's totally fair.
I don't know. I mean, part of me is curious based on just anytime something goes into the zeitgeist this hard for this long, and literally like the game of the year awards Keeley's showcase next week, which I'm so pissed I'm not going to. I went last year, and to not go this year really hurts my soul. But it's nominated for so many awards. It's going to win so many awards. So part of me is curious, but I cannot describe to you how little I care about this genre and the mechanics. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. Like I've tried games like this before. I'm just like, I don't.
I think the big thing, we've talked about this before. I think the big thing is that the amount of time, I've said it before, it's like minimum 100 hours.
It's a lot.
And
I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum about it, but like it's not for me.
No, I get it.
It's just not.
Okay, well, sorry, Josh, if you have one last thought.
I got one last thing I did want to say. Like, it's hard because I think it released at the perfect time. If it didn't go into early access when it got into early access, which is like, 2 years after Disco Elysium, roughly, which was, I don't know, did anyone play Disco Elysium here?
I didn't. I've heard.
But, well, I'm sure you've heard of the impact it had. But same perspective, lots of talking, lots of reading, lots of choices. You're literally rolling dice in it to do your checks, just like in Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. Came out right after that. Came out in early access. It came out when like we're in a point where people are like, I want to bite into a thick game right now. I don't want this popcorny game. Like, people are willing. Like, look how long God of War Ragnarok ended up being. It was super long, and that was like a AAA. Sony exclusive game, and I'm not complaining. That game was fantastic. It was really, really high bar quality, but like, people are comfortable with that. But Baldur's Gate, I think, has pushed us not only in like time, but also like in quality, because there's no AI bullshit in this game. It is all mode-capped. Like, it is gorgeous as well. You have so many like different options for different kinds of people and all this different stuff that like any game trying to get like kind of follow this is gonna have a tough time. So it's like, I'm curious to see what you're saying, where people are looking at this game being like, how do we get a piece of that pie? I don't think we're gonna see a bunch of like clones. I'm calling that now.
It's a mountain to climb.
Yeah, no way.
The mocap thing is insane. So Brian and I have talked about this at length on the show about how listen, I know a lot of work gets put into it, so I don't want to dismiss when a team puts together a game and then this happens, because I know how hard it is. But at the end of the day, and the best example I can think of off the top of my head are the Horizon Forbidden West games. When you talk to an NPC, it's such dead, just lock on, head bobbing, no emotion, and I can't pay attention to what they're saying. And in Baldur's Gate, every fucking interaction, it doesn't matter. Did they mocap the animals too? I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't matter who you talk to. It's some sort of really subtle. Everything they say, you get that little bit of inflection and head movement, and it just feels natural. And it's subtle. It's not like this, cinematic Quentin Tarantino masterpiece of a cutscene, but it is worth mentioning, and it's going to be hard to fucking replicate. Moving on. Number 9. Any thoughts now that Baldur's Gate 3? Like, I'm glad it made the list, because honestly, I knew I was the only one that played it. But the fact that it made the list makes me happy. So, what do we think number 9 is going to be?
I have a question first. Did you edit your list after you got Wonder?
I didn't do my list until I got Wonder.
Oh, okay. So
That
you had
changed
played
things.
Wonder.
Yes.
And Derek, have you played Wonder? Mario Wonder?
Nope.
You haven't played Wonder. Josh has played Wonder.
Oh, then I think it's Wonder then.
I think number 9's Mario Wonder.
Number 9 is Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Yeah.
This game was fucking fantastic, and honestly, I have not beaten it, which usually is like, I think this happened a lot on this list. We didn't all beat the games, which is totally fine because games are long. But having played it for we played for like 6 hours at your house. I had such a good time with this game. I'm like, we've talked about it at length about like the badge system, bringing in a whole Metroidvania style to Mario Brothers. I think all I'm gonna say before I'll throw it to Brian, at the end of the day, I just really fucking wanted a game that was like easy to play, challenge based. That's a big thing for me. Sometimes I need like a palate cleanser where it's like not Baldur's Gate 3 and it's just beat the level. Do you have the skill to beat the level and get a clear at the end? Like, and colorful, happy ass game. And this nailed all of that. And I can't say enough about it for being an amazing platformer. So Brian, I know you have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, so what Cheryl, my wife, and I, what we did is we played the game through, just like beat the level however you want, however many Wonder Seeds you got. To beat at each level 100%, you need 3 purple coins, the top of the flag, and 2 Wonder Seeds, sometimes 3, whatever, depending on the level. So we went through the game, just whatever, get to the end, as long as we like hit the flag on everything, just see what all the levels are about. We did that. Now we're going through 100%ing every level. And that's where it gets super spicy, and we're having a really good time with it. The creativity of, there's a Wonder Flower in each level for anyone who hasn't played it, and when you hit this Wonder Flower, the entire level changes. Perspective change, lighting change, shadows, there's all kinds of different things, bubbles, the birds shooting bubbles.
Full-on acid trip.
It's, yeah, like Cheryl literally said, she's like, this is a special type of acid they took to make this one. Like, Mario in itself is kind of like on shrooms and on hard drugs for sure. This takes it to this is like designer drugs. This is like a different level they took it to. And no, I've been having a blast with this game. The creativity knows no bounds. But hey, for those of us who have played it, that fucking level, that wall jump level early where you have the wall jump badge and you have to fucking jump on those little platforms. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I got that like, badge, but I don't recall one.
There's one. So what they do is they give you these badges, they let you practice with them, and then there's challenges. So you go and you have to use it again in a different area. And there was one, I think it's badge, it's like wall jump level 2. And you literally, the platform's spinning, and you have to like jump up it and then time it. Oh my God. It's infuriating.
It is Mario, that's going to happen.
Yeah, but overall, just such a great game. The story is whatever. It's the same story. It's the same story.
I don't know how they keep getting away with it.
I can't remember if we talked about this on the show or offline, but I clearly Bowser and Daisy are in some kind of extortion scheme, and they're extorting Mario. You know what I mean? Like they're clearly, it's all planned. It's like the movie Focus. You know what I mean? Like they're running a game, and Mario's just the easiest mark in the world. Is how it feels.
Yeah, he's a sucker.
So it's just the same shit over and over. But the fact that they've been getting away with that for 35 years, and Mario's face is one of the most recognizable things on the planet, is insane. Mm-hmm. And there's obviously a reason for it. So super fun game. Had it on my list. Still playing it. Like, and I don't know if Josh and Derek, if you know this, but my wife and I have clocked almost 500 hours playing Mario Maker 2.
Wow.
Which is, so what we'll do is like, instead of watching TV at night, if we just want to talk, because I don't know, when I sit there with her and we're both watching a show, we're not talking to each other. That's and the lowest form of intimacy in a relationship is just sitting watching TV in silence. So some nights we'll play and we'll talk and we'll have a drink or whatever, but we'll play and actually have a conversation while we're taking turns playing. 500 hours worth of Mario Maker 2, because the levels are infinite. You can just find levels online. It's crazy. So she's really into Wonder now. Thank God, because if she wasn't, I would just be solo on this. But yeah, great game.
By the way, I'll do the points for this as well. So it was on my list and Brian's list with a collective 11 points, whereas like Baldur's Gate had 9, being my second favorite game. Josh, this wasn't on your list, but you did play it.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts? Do you want to just lay anything down real quick?
Yeah, like I've been playing Mario forever. Like, it is another like quality Mario game. I think honestly my favorite part's probably that fun art style change. They've definitely like they definitely decided, they're like, okay, we've all seen the guy with the mustache and he runs and he has a hat and it's all silly, but they're like, all right, what if we like give it a direction? What if we give it something really definite, as opposed to like, I would say the last like roughly 10-15 years of them. Like I think the last time we really had like a big like, I'm trying to think of like a big shakeup in how we see Mario visually, was probably, man, I don't even know, like Galaxy, because it was like, oh, HD Mario, this is like awesome. But it was just like really fun, clearly seeing that like they had fun like animating, and the flowers are really fun and different. And like I wonder how like through translation that worked. Like that translation team killed it, because it's like genuinely pretty funny. Like it just makes me crack up. And like yeah, it's a good time. Like I'm curious how it is with 4 people. I played it with my friend for better part of like 6 hours when the Blink-182 album came out.
Nice.
And we just cranked through that for a bit, got a pizza, like really settled into that. But it's a good time. It's a good time. I'd love to see if they like add some DLC to something of it, maybe add some more content, because I'm sure people have plowed through this game already, but there is like a lot of content in it, and like yeah, it's solid. It's solid.
The replaying through it is a big thing, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that is where the replayability comes through, because all the old Marios were usually like, I guess the new Super Mario Brothers, it was always just get the 3 golden coins. That was like the replayability. But in that, like those are hidden. You got to explore. It takes skill. Like that's not an easy thing to do. But like Brian said, there's the 3 purple coins now. But then there's also the collectible of getting the top of the flagpole at the end in every level, which is a motherfucker in some levels.
You need certain badges, and that's why you need
Yes.
to play all the way through the game and go back, because you need a certain badge to hit the top of that flagpole, which is brilliant.
But then there's multiple Wonder Seeds in some levels too, and those are collectibles. So it makes going back, like what I'm doing and what it sounds like you did, Brian, was just go through the game, get to the end, get all the badges, like a Metroidvania. You kind of play to the end, but then you rewind, you go right to the beginning, and you're like loaded up to play the game completely differently. So yeah, a lot of good replayability. Derek, is this something you had any interest in down the line? Are you like done with your Switch? Is it over with?
I just got back into Tears of the Kingdom because I need to get that thing actually finished, because I haven't actually gone all the way through. I'm not done with my Switch. I'm not a huge platformer guy. I played the original Mario, like Mario Bros. On the NES when I was a kid, and then I kind of skipped Mario games until Odyssey came out. Not on purpose. I never had a Nintendo system, so I never really like grew up with them as much as like I played it for a bit, and now I'm here. So I guess a question is like, would you recommend this to somebody who doesn't really love platformers but has had some enjoyment in Odyssey?
It doesn't change
You gotta
anything.
do that, right?
If you've played the new Super Mario Brothers, the side scroller, you have Mario Maker. Like it's the same thing. It's just, as a Mario fan, it is a very good Mario game. But like they haven't changed the formula so much to bring in, I guess, new players that aren't into Mario games. Like it's not going to change your mind, you know.
It's still mostly just a lot of jumping and timing things, and that's
I would agree with that. I think that's maybe my only gripe with it is I'm like, it's pretty safe. Like it's good, and I've bought Mario games and I will continue to. But it's like, I know what I'm getting out of this, and it's just, it didn't hit me right now. Maybe if it came out at a different time, but it's like solid. But yeah, if you're not already sold on platforms, this isn't going to be the thing.
Perfect.
There's one level, Derek, where they change the perspective and it goes from a side scroller to top down, and it feels like an old school Zelda game, and you're going through, and that's like one of the Wonder Seeds changes the world to look that way. And I think they only do that once or twice through the game. I think if they leaned heavier into that,
that could have been, if there was drastic changes. It's more of like acid trips that occur rather than like complete gameplay changes.
If you were to do a whole world of tops down, or a whole world that went Odyssey style or whatever, like world to world, or something where you peppered it in more, I think they could probably grab more players. But I think they're making existing Mario fans happy and not trying to grab anybody new. Like, I don't know, Grayson likes it because it's colorful and whatever. But if Grayson never gets serious about gaming, will he like it? It depends. If he likes platformers, yes. If he doesn't, no.
Yeah.
Like, they don't reinvent anything. So I think Josh made a good point. It's like, it's very safe. I enjoyed it because I enjoy that. But like, I don't know. I think they could push the envelope more, and maybe they will. They always release like a 2D and a 3D. Like they try to Odyssey. This isn't like a sequel to Odyssey. This is new Super Mario Brothers that we remade off of Wii was getting really old, and we need a new 2D Mario. Is what this was.
Okay.
Yep. But it's worth playing if you are a platformer. But yeah, it's not going to bring anyone new in. For this next game, they really didn't. Actually, I don't want to give away anything. Any takers? What do we think number 8 on our list is?
It's got to be Zelda.
Zelda?
It's not on my. Okay, so who played Zelda? All of you except me, right?
I did, yeah.
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 And all of you have it on your. Well, I guess I can't really know.
There's a lot more games that came out this year, but
if all of you
Zelda.
if all of you played it and I didn't, that to me point wise would probably put it at 8 if it's on the list at all.
Dead Space Remake.
Ooh, I feel bad for that game, man. That game in any other year would have been top 3,
Crushed.
top 2.
It was a really good and faithful remake. To almost a fault, like I think they could have improved a few things, but it was really fucking good, and it got drowned in 2023, and it released early.
It released, and you
It
know
was
what?
the first
And
game, right?
I never
Yeah.
played the original. I never played the original, and my first experience with Dead Space being that was unfucking believable.
Yeah, I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, it was insane. Well, I didn't have I guess it was on PS3, right? See, I wasn't I wasn't deep in the shit back then to play it. Like I was literally just on my Modern Warfare 2 bullshit back then, or Black Ops or whatever it was. Like I was just a COD occasional back then. That game, unbelievable. I hope it wins for audio design. Honestly,
Yeah,
You
really
guys
good
talked
audio
about
design for
that
the 3D
on the
audio.
episode you're on, Derek. I was like, man, the audio design or whatever it is. There's 2 audio ones. I think it's in one of them, and not.
I think it's for design. Yeah.
I think it's, that is one of the creepiest games. More than Alan Wake, more than Resident Evil, more than Silent Hill. The creepiest game audio-wise I have ever played, hands down, and it's not even close.
They do a really good, cool thing with events.
Yeah, well, because it's 3D,
and then
it's 3D
sometimes
audio
nothing
too.
happens.
Oh.
They'll get you, and you're like, and then just nothing. And you're like, motherfucker.
And like the fact that you're on a ship and they had the foresight to be like, it's above my head, it's behind me, it's left, it's right, they're hidden, you can't see it. Like crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy tension building. I loved it.
Well, the 3 of us, you, myself, and Derek, had it on our list, so it scored 12 points. Josh, you were the only one that didn't have it in your list. Did you play it at all? Is it something you do want to play? Like, do you have any experience with Dead Space at all? I don't know your history with the game.
Yeah. Shout out Dylan. Dylan gave me the whole rundown on some of the changes that they went through. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the boss encounters from the original is changed, like the perspective in the
few boss encounters. Yeah, they
Where
made them
you're
just
like-
more streamlined.
Yeah, or like you get a different kind of look at how it. Like I'm not totally sure. I can't speak to it. I no joke. I just downloaded it yesterday or the day before on my Series X, and I was like, I'm gonna go through this. I'm gonna give it a shot. Next day, my Game Pass expired.
No.
There goes that idea. And then I started playing The Witcher 3 for the first time. So.
That's the universe telling you something, you know?
Listen, business-wise, I can tell you with absolute fucking certainty that now that this Activision deal is closed, that Game Pass is going to skyrocket in price if you try to get it new. I think if you keep an active subscription for now, I think they'll probably hold pricing for a bit. But if you leave it expired and wait even 3 months, I guarantee you it'll skyrocket in price. So they'll be like, look at all the fun games we have now. And they'll do that whole thing, and they'll charge you through the nose for it. So I would highly recommend renewing.
Try and get through it.
Stock up on it.
Yeah.
Well, just hold it, because that's how it always goes. They don't want to piss off existing subscribers, but new people who are dumb and don't understand, they want them to pay more.
Oh yeah.
Derek, you had this on your list, so we talked about it on the episode, but like any thoughts and just things on why this made your list?
Yeah, so this kind of similar to Brian, but also similar to you, is I've played the Dead Space series before. I played 2 and 3 and loved them back on the PS3 era. Dead Space 3 was a little mixed, but still, Dead Space 2 was one of my favorite games of that generation, but never played the original. So going into this game was a really unique kind of situation where I knew what necromorphs were, I knew the world of Dead Space, and I loved it, but I never experienced this original. So in so many ways, it was really cool to go back and see what started it all. But the reason why this wasn't higher up on my list, which it would have been if I hadn't have had those other things happen, is playing this kind of felt like I've seen these things before, but it wasn't enough new there to kind of keep me going. And the things that they did do new and the things that they changed, I didn't really appreciate them because I had never played the original. Like you played it, Alan,
Yeah,
you played it,
that's
and you
fair.
said like, oh, it's so cool how this like was changed and the level design was different. Where I didn't really appreciate those things, but I wasn't also a complete noob to like the series where I was like, oh my god, necromorphs are super cool and super interesting. So it was
Yeah.
this weird in between where I enjoyed my time with it, but there wasn't really enough that they changed to like really update it. Like when I think of great remakes, I think of another game that's on this list is Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2. They changed enough where like that game could have released in 2023, and I would have said, yeah, that makes sense. That game, you could have told me that that's a brand new game. Whereas Dead Space, it feels a lot like playing a 10-year-old game, but it just looks prettier, right?
It's you know what I compare it to? Did you guys play Kennig Bridge of Spirits?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Prettiest looking PS2 game I've ever played.
It is, old design, but
that's
like it
what
was
it
a good
is.
game, but yeah,
It
it's
was a good
stuck in
game,
like the
PS2
early
though.
like design of
And
like PS2 games.
That I think for me is why Dead Space also wasn't higher on my list. To agree with Derek on that point,
Yeah.
is that it was good, but I can tell it was rooted in something old that they didn't tear apart and upgrade. Which to Derek's other point, they did with Resident Evil 2 and 4. So we know they could have, and they just didn't. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
okay.
part of a whole discussion. I'm sure we could do
Yeah.
a whole episode about of like how faithful do you make a remake and how you're going to piss off fans and what do you do new. I think Capcom fucking crushes it with like the remakes so far. That being said, do we have any guesses on what our number 7 is?
I think the
Resident
burying the
Evil?
lead.
I could be tricking
Exposing
you.
it a little.
What do you guys think?
I don't think it's Resident Evil. We all played Resident Evil.
Oh yeah. Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say
okay.
Tears
Tears
has
of the
to
Kingdom
be-
again. So this is the second time we're guessing Tears of the
It
Kingdom.
has to
Third
be.
time, actually.
I'll keep guessing until we're at number 3.
Okay, all right. Lies of P is our number 7 game
I'm
of
glad
the
that made it on the list.
top 10.
Yeah.
Who else played this? Josh, you played it too?
Yes, I'm going to hand it
Okay,
off to you
perfect.
two, please.
played the
Derek, take it
demo, I
away
didn't play
because,
it,
yeah, we played the demo. I feel like that is not enough to comment. So please let us know why this game made your list. And I believe for you, it was, what, 3rd on your list?
Third, yeah. It was
Yep.
it was a really big one for me. It's really rooted in my love of the Souls-like formula and the genre. I've played every one of those games. Elden Ring is one of my tops of all time. So getting a studio that came together and made a game that's pretty much just a Souls-like game. It basically plays like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and elements of Sekiro and elements of Elden Ring. It took all the things that I love about all those games and then added its own flair to it and tweaked things that needed to be tweaked and left things alone that needed to be left alone. So many studios have come and tried to make Souls-likes, and none of them have really resonated with me because the things that they try and change, it almost feels like they're trying to change things for the sake of changing them, and they're afraid of making it too similar. And I want studios to innovate. I want them to improve upon the Souls-like formula, but it was kind of refreshing to see a studio just say, no, we're gonna keep the things that are good and deliver you a rock solid Souls-like experience for Souls-like fans and not compromise on anything they didn't want to. And there was enough new with the story and the characters and the world that they made with Pinocchio that was original and was so fresh and creative that it really squashed any sense of like negative that came from like how similar it was. So ultimately, I had a fantastic time playing it. It was great. I got it on PC on Game Pass, so I paid like $15 for the month.
Right,
for it,
I
so
forgot that you played
I
on
didn't even
PC,
have to
yeah.
pay like the full $100. But as soon as that game comes available on sale, I'm gonna pick it up because I want to own it. I'm excited for playing it again. And yeah, I'll throw it over to Josh.
Well, Brian, you had a question.
I have a question first, quickly. How far do they take the Pinocchio thing? Like, is Geppetto a
That's a good
boss?
question.
Is it a? Is like how
yes,
far do
Is
they
he
go?
your daddy?
No, but yeah, he like it's very far. Like you have Geppetto is on your hip, like it's a cricket, and it like talks to you, and he actually talks to you, and like
That's Jiminy.
no, sorry, Jiminy. Yes.
Jiminy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought
Geppetto's
Geppetto
the
is your
maker.
daddy.
My bad, Geppetto's your
Geppetto is
dad.
the daddy.
was
So
like,
yeah,
what?
he's in it. Like you have those characters. There's key references throughout the entire thing. You
makes
go to
sense a lot more.
Stargazers because there's like wishing upon a star, like the nursery rhyme. There's references everywhere, and there's a whole bunch of
But it's like
mechanics with,
dark and yeah.
yeah. And the biggest mechanics are the ones with like being a real person and like lying and like those like what do you do is like a puppet and there's repercussions for those things and
Oh,
The
interesting.
devs knew what they were doing. I want to just say they knew what they were doing because, Derek, you're a diehard Bloodborne fan, and this game exudes Bloodborne energy. And I know fans of the series are like fucking dying for a sequel. So I feel like this was the perfect storm of them coming in and being like, well, you won't get a sequel officially, but here's our take on it. And from the demo, like Brian and I played the demo, it looked fucking really cool. But
really
yeah,
cool.
Josh, you also played it. So it was 6th on your list, I believe.
Yeah, that game's solid. That's a game I can like. It's hard because I'm unfortunately, unlike you, I'm actually not huge on Souls-like games. I don't know. I like to get in a game, and I don't know. I'm like a stupid purist. Like if I can play like a game for the first time, I try to get it on the fucking console that it came out for. I'll try to get like a disc of it and all that stupid shit. So I like to like almost like have the blinders up. I don't like Googling stuff. And I feel like with Souls-like games, you kind of got to swallow that ego and be like, hey, I'm lost in this cryptic ass game. Let me do a quick Google, see, or hit your head against the wall. And it's like, which one are you gonna kind of like value more, your time or whatever? But Last Piece great. Oh man, it has such like a solid foundation for like, I don't know, just really just setting it for really interesting, like dark, gritty. Like if you're into Bloodborne, this is the game to play. That's the big thing. If you're into Bloodborne, why aren't you playing this? Like I would recommend buying this full price even. Like it's really well made. It's super solid from a tech perspective too. It's gorgeous. Like what you were saying about like the mechanic about lying and stuff, it's like a little thing, but it goes a long way to keep you like immersed into being like, I'm not playing a Timothy Chalamet, I'm playing Pinocchio. Like it's like
It does look like Timothy Chalamet.
Oh yeah, it does.
Is it Timothy Chalamet?
No,
He looks like a lizard. Like
it looks like him though. That's funny.
Lizard vibes.
It's weird. He could be, honestly. But like it's like seeing like it's like exactly what you were saying of like it is so refreshing to see people be like, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just need to make it shinier. I need to make it more sturdy. And this is exactly what this game does. Like it's fun, but it's exactly what you want. You're like, oh, I want Bloodborne 2. This is as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's really good. I like the addition of the arm powers and how you can create weapons by fusing handles.
In the demo, yeah.
Oh, it's great. Like the amount that they show you later in the game too, and how you can upgrade them, and the skill tree. I don't know if anyone played Final Fantasy X, but it looks like the skill tree from Final Fantasy X, and it's really, really good. It has like a lot of love put into it clearly too. Like they were just like, yeah, we have a good idea, and we're just gonna do it in a Souls-like body, and it's great. I would really recommend playing it. It's like something that I think has nice widespread appeal. With that, I wouldn't say that if we were living in a world that Bloodborne didn't come out in.
Yeah,
but Bloodborne,
yeah.
people fucking love Bloodborne, so I'm like, yeah, everyone should play Last Piece. It's great.
Well, this is the thing. If it was any other year, I would have played this because Derek had tried to get me on to the Souls-like and Bloodborne specifically for so long, and it's not that I don't like I'm against them. I was just like, oh, I don't have the time, and I really gotta like you said, Josh, you really got to dig into these games. They're a lot, and you do have to look up guides and stuff like that at certain points. But then Elden Ring came out and completely opened my eyes to like, holy shit. Like Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time, and that's kind of wild. If you rewind probably 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, Dark Souls, this and whatever. So I really wanted to play this game. It might be a while until I do still, but I'm glad to hear that, like, I mean, judging from what both of you said in the past and today, like, and just seeing online, this game looks phenomenal and just another fucking banger in 2023. Number 6.
We're gonna guess Tears of the Kingdom again.
Got one for Tears of the Kingdom. Anybody else? Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Anyone Tears of the Kingdom?
I'm gonna go Resident Evil 4. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Resident Evil 4 actually, because I don't think I don't know. There's so many good games. It's so hard.
Okay, Josh, can you give me a drum roll?
Before I say that, with the amount of like PlayStation love I have in this, Resident Evil and like Sony fans are like they're like this.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that original trilogy, baby. Like so that was where it happened, you know.
I feel like 4. I think 4 is gonna hit on 4 maybe. 4.
Okay.
I'm saying Tears of the Kingdom.
Everyone. It's Tears of the Kingdom.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
We've made it, everybody. We are here. Tears of the Kingdom made it. It is our number 6, and I think worthy. That's a good place for it.
Yeah.
One of the big things I know Derek and I talked a lot about, but I'll get the opinions. This was not on Brian's list, but it scored 15 points between the three of us. This to me was like Breath of the Wild came out and was. You can speak endlessly about that game being what it was. That game is fucking insanely amazing. This is, to me, Breath of the Wild perfected. It took everything I loved about that game and then added so much more. I was not ready for the underworld being the same fucking size as the map, so essentially doubling the game, and then the Sky Islands, which were advertised. Don't get me started on the mechanic of actually like building and things like that. The way that Nintendo thought up that system and how fucking seamlessly it works, all of it together is so good. But at the same time, there is that familiarity of like, I have kind of played this before. It is so familiar to the point that it didn't hit, I think, the general public as much as Breath of the Wild did. So I think it deserves to be on this list. And I think 6 is somewhat fair between the three of us.
I agree with that.
Yeah, like, so what was your experience? I haven't actually heard a lot of your time with it, Josh.
Yeah,
It was high on your list, too. It was your number 2. So, yeah, I want to hear from you, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I freaking love Zelda. I got Zelda tattoo on my ankle. Like, I got
You got Majora's Mask behind you.
Yeah.
I got the Majora's Mask. Like, the thing is, like, I can fully acknowledge my bias with this game. Because, like, I love me a Zelda game. I love the world that it takes place in. I love, like, the kind of wackiness with it. Something I will say, that a game that didn't make my list that I will call it similarly, it's very safe in many ways still because it's a Zelda game. They didn't update that art style. It's the exact same looking game. You're literally in the same like world, like of course enhanced. But it's those mechanical differences that make you think differently. Like, because like before you'd see like a mountain or some shit, and you'd be like, all right, I can climb and I can take a stamina potion, or I can't remember. I think it was like food or something, and I can like boost my stamina, and then I can use the Rivali's Gale to jump up really high in this. But now you're like, I got a balloon, and I got this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and like you just kind of think of how you explore the world really differently. Like the way that I played Breath of the Wild was probably Tears of the Kingdom was very different probably from other people. Like I don't, you know, the like you get all the wait, hold on, everyone's beaten it, I'm guessing.
I've beaten the main story, but there's
go ahead. Yeah.
plenty more to play. Are you talking about the powers you get?
I was gonna talk about like the buddy system that you have in the game. It's like there's like one that you get late in the game that I like kind of rolled my eyes at because I was like, another one. This game is so long, and like this year is the games are so long, and I pretty much like main quested it. But like I still had a really good time. It's just that difference of how it makes you look at a game, which I think is interesting, that I feel like we haven't had in a minute, honestly, since Breath of the Wild 1. And the only thing I'll say as a con is it doesn't translate to other games. It's not like how when Dark Souls came out, everyone's like, we're going to make a fucking Dark Souls game. And then you have Lords of the Fallen, you have The Surge, and you have all these other ones. No one's going to try to do this. Not in like a whoa, this is amazing. It's too much work. Like Ubisoft did it once with Immortals Phoenix Rising, and it was like, cool, you did it. But then everyone kind of realized, they're like, oh, we don't want this game.
We don't want non-Nintendo versions, yeah.
That's exactly it, which is like, it's like with platformers, it's another thing, because people are like, all right, you can do different things with platforms. You can do that. It doesn't have to be Mario. But with Zelda, they're like, no. We want our Zelda game. We want our Zelda game to be a Zelda game. That's why Immortals just kind of did the way that it did. Yeah. And that's why that honestly, that sequel probably got canceled. Why it probably got canceled, I mean. But yeah. I had a great time with it. Story definitely got better. I kind of wish we had any kind of semblance of good voice acting in it. But
yeah,
it is good. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts.
Well, let me throw to Derek, because Derek, you're playing it right now with your PC in the shop. So where
Yes.
did you leave off, and what are your thoughts on this? Because you had it at what? Do you recall? I have it,
It was
here.
10. Yeah, it was quite
Yes.
low down on my list.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a really good time with this game. I'm a really big fan of the original, but I guess unlike Josh, I'm not a massive Zelda fan. The reasons I loved Breath of the Wild were not directly related to the IP. It was really just this really cool new concept of this giant open world, like in many ways revolutionary in how you can explore it and how you level up and how you gather different elements for cooking and for crafting and for armor sets and weaponry and like upgrading your stamina and your health. And that really like took a hold of me and really made me love that game. And here in Tears of the Kingdom, it just did not resonate the same way. I still enjoyed it. I played about 30 hours of it. I've beaten one Divine Beast. I'm right close to beating another. I've probably explored a little over half the map. So I put a fair bit of time into it, and I did enjoy that time, but it wasn't like Breath of the Wild where I was obsessed with it and played it for 200 hours and got every single shrine, and I just lived in that game for like 2 months. Maybe it had to do with the fact that I was in Vegas with you when this came out. So like I played it for like a couple days and then had nothing for a week and then played it again. So maybe that kind of messed with it. But I've been wanting to go back to it. I'm back at it now, and I feel like once I put another maybe 20 or 30 hours into it, I'll feel a lot stronger about it. Once I get those end game items, like Josh was talking about, with the abilities that you don't get until you're like 70 hours into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I still think it's a great game. I can see how somebody would classify it as like their game of the year or a favorite. It just unfortunately didn't resonate with me as much as that.
That's fair. It was my game of the year at the time. I was like, up until this point, because what was that? It was May. Yeah, because we were in Vegas. Which, by the way, when I got home from Vegas, I had clocked 17 hours in that game between the flights, the airport, and us recovering in bed between each festival day. I fucking demolished that game while we were there. But I think, honestly, me personally, this was a victim of 2023. This would have been like
too.
So many games. It's just how do you split your time between, like, never mind the fucking getting a PC in the middle of all this and exploring the endless bounds of like what that had to offer. There's all these new releases, and I put like 70 hours in this game. I did beat the main story, so I got what I wanted out of it. But this was a game like Breath of the Wild. I think I have like 200 hours. I wanted to like live in the world, but I just didn't have the time, and I had to put it down. I never went back since. So I'm almost like heartbroken and want to go back and give it the time that I think it deserves. But it's like there's just all these new games coming out. I can't do it.
Yeah, we almost need no games to come out in 2024, and the publishers to be like, listen, play all the shit that we've released, and that's the end. That's the end. Just go do that. Just go play all the games you clearly didn't play this year, because we made a lot of them. Could you chill out, you fucking savage?
It's gonna be a slower year, but there's still some good games coming out. But yes, I agree.
Here,
I agree.
You know? Well, and for me too, like, it wasn't on my list because I didn't play it. The reason I didn't play it is because I don't have time for all these games like we were talking about. And it's so daunting. I went to go play Breath of the Wild, and I like came across the first boss, and I'm like 25 hours in, and Alan's like, you barely scratched the surface. I'm like, fuck this game. I'm not like 25 hours in scratching the surface. No,
it's
I gotta
true
be mentally,
though. Yeah,
you gotta really be mentally prepared for that, for Cyberpunk, for Grand Theft Auto.
You live in these worlds. You really
like,
do.
Yeah.
The joke around like Second Life and like a digital persona and all this, like, not to get too, it's not that crazy of like you're throwing your life away, but you really do live in these worlds for an extended period of time. Like, it's not like any other hobby either. You're especially like a first person game, like you are in it. You got headphones on. Derek got me on the wide monitor, so now it's like it's literally on my peripherals. Like, it's bad, man. You live in these games, and I totally get it. If you don't have the time for a fucking 100-hour minimum dedication, where are you ever going to fit it in?
I need some light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? And it's just it's so deep and so vast.
I do think that you don't have to beat every game, though. I know, Alan, you beat like 95% of every title you started.
Yeah, but that's my own issue. I totally recognize that. Don't worry.
I also have said issue. It's a sense.
I tried to.
I have no problem though starting a game like Zelda or like I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I picked it up for $20. I played it for 20 hours, had a great time with it. Put it down, never touched it again.
But how do you
Completely
sleep at
satisfied
night?
with that.
That's like
Very comfortably.
that is
Where
the
do
question.
you get off,
Yeah, where do you fucking get off, dude? No, honestly, like I'm jealous because I can't.
I did that with Valhalla, and I was like, for my own sanity, I can't play more of the same fucking horse shit that Ubisoft is putting out. I can't. It's the same shit over and over and over and over and over. And I was just like, no, I refuse. 20 hours into Valhalla, I heard there's like 190 hours of content. I'm like, fuck you. I'm out of here.
I don't want to go off on too of a tangent. We're halfway through the list, but I do want to say there's something about like my smooth gamer brain that like if I see a new release coming out, I'm getting excited. It's the zeitgeist of like, let's all fucking play this new game.
You want to play Mirage, don't you?
No. I'm just saying, like everything we've just listed on this list. If I pay full price, I'm fucking beating that game. You will not catch me not beating that game. But if I get a game like you said, Derek, like $20 Odyssey, I don't feel compelled. And there's something wrong with that. I totally understand. There's something very inherently wrong with what I just said. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Whenever I buy that full price game, I have to beat it, or it will keep me up at night. I was joking, but I'm not joking.
Well, you want to get your value out of it, right? And
I guess, but like it's also a sickness.
Half a sandwich, right? Like you don't go to a restaurant, order a plate of food, take 3 bites, and leave. That's wasteful.
The core.
Thing here, right?
We've had conversations about this in the past. My core, to be real about it, I love the medium so much. I really don't. I'm not joking about this. I really don't see it that differently than listening to a song, watching a movie, watching a TV show, of like absorbing a piece of art. There's something that inherently fucking triggers me when I don't finish it. Music's a little different, like if you have a mix going on or whatever, but for the first time, if you hear a song for the first time from your favorite artist, New Music Friday comes out, they drop a new single, I can't just listen to half that song. You know what I mean? Like for the first time listening to it and halfway through you're just like, I'm gonna go do something else. It kills me. Same with the movie. Drives me nuts if like Nicole falls asleep halfway through a movie and I gotta wait for the next day. A game is no different to me. I get halfway through and unless I hate it, which has happened, I have to beat it. And it's like there's a compulsion and a sickness that I have to. But I'm jealous that you don't have that. It's probably a much healthier way to go about things. We're halfway through. So next is number 5. You guys guessed Tears of the Kingdom every single time. Now that it has passed, what are we thinking lands on our number 5?
Did everybody play Jedi Fallen Order? Is that even on this list?
Survivor,
sorry.
Could be. Couldn't be. I played it.
Maybe it
Brian
missed
played
the
it.
list. Maybe it missed.
Oh,
I'll say. You know what? That's a good
I'll
call.
say that,
I'll
then.
say Jedi Survivor.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy is our
Ooh.
number 5 choice.
I'm glad
And-
it's getting a nomination somewhere.
Yes.
Fucked everywhere else.
Yeah, I don't want to go into the weeds of that because it's honestly really annoying. I will
Let's just
say
talk
on
about the
air,
story, yeah.
J.K. Rowling is a huge piece of shit. But we've said this before on the show. I'm not supporting her. I know it ends up going back into her pocket, but I'm supporting the fucking team that put together a fun-ass, absolutely amazing experience that is Hogwarts Legacy. That game is fun as shit and such a power fantasy for any Harry Potter fan. Anyone that grew up with this shit. This is like your ultimate go-to experience to live in the Harry Potter world. And I beat the living shit out of it. It was one of those games, as soon as I beat it, I kind of... Yeah, it was
your
earlier
game
in
of
the year.
That was
my
my game of the year, and you were like, nothing's going to contend this.
And then
Nothing's
Tears of
gonna
the Kingdom
contend
came
this.
out, and I was
And then
like,
Tears of the Kingdom came out.
you know, it's close.
And then everything else came out. Yeah.
But man, you look at the fucking castle, and that is one thing. Like, let's just separate everything else that the game does absolutely incredible. Just the castle alone. The fantasy that I've had... Like, when did the first book come out? It was like 2000, 99? Earlier?
it was like a 99
nice.
or
I think
98.
Late 90s, early 2000s. So for over 20 years, I look back at that as a childhood. I'm sure anyone here as a fan knows the same feeling of like what Harry Potter meant to you when you were younger. And I'm like, you read the books and you imagine what that castle looks like. we went through the whole thing of like the films coming out and being like, oh, I thought of what Harry looked like and all these characters, and then you see them on screen and you're like, oh shit, some of them look like what I thought, some of them do not. And then they showed the castle, and I remember just being so absorbed in looking in every nook and cranny, just like that. This is so amazing. It's coming to life, and I just want to see where, like, that door in the back behind the main character, where does that go, and how does it connect to, you know, the main dining hall, and how does all these things like happen?
You're just like a very curious architect. You're just like,
well, I just, because I was so obsessed as a kid. Like, I wanted to live. What fucking kid did not want to go to Hogwarts for school? Come on. So one of the things, it's a quick story about like what blew my mind in this game, and I just thought was so cool. It's very similar to Baldur's Gate 3, where I really feel that the whole team at Portkey really was passionate about Harry Potter, because there's so many little things that shine through that if you were just working on the IP because it's an IP the business just got a hold of. There's a difference between that and a difference between like being super passionate about the IP. So I was Hufflepuff, and their common room is in the bottom wine cellar of the castle. You got to go down a huge fucking staircase. You got to go into like the back catacombs, and then there's these huge wine barrels, and they open up, and that's your common room. It's dope as shit. I loved it. It was such a cool little way. All the common rooms, by the way, are super fucking cool to enter and very unique. But on the way out one time, I noticed what's the thing, Derek? The Revelio? Is that it?
Yep.
You can just that's your like detective mode, right? You spam a spell called Revelio, and it kind of bursts like where are all the points of interest in front of you. I happen to do that, and there's a painting, and this pear just lights up. Like, what the fuck? This hasn't happened before. I'm a comber. I go through levels and I comb very fine, and this was not there before. So I go up to the painting, and sure enough, there's a prompt to interact with the pear. So I do that, and it opens up a whole fucking door, and I'm like, God, I fucking love like secret passages and castles. Like, it's just hitting all the right things, right? You go in, and all these little gnome and gremlin type fucking creatures are just, it's a kitchen. They're prepping meals. They're losing their minds. They're stomping grapes. They're like doing all this meal prep and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, the whole game, you just kind of walk around and observe all this crazy shit. But this was the moment where I was like, holy fuck, okay, these devs love this series because this is such a cool detail. In the basement, there are 4 huge, great tables side by side to one another. And you see the little gnome guys walking up with food and filling up the tables. And I just happen to catch it. It's a long cycle you got to wait for. I just happen to catch the moment where the tables are full, and out of nowhere, they all levitate and disappear up into the ceiling. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I remembered from the books that when they first go into the Great Hall, the kids are talking about how the meals are served. And there's a passage about, I had to go back and read this. I didn't remember it for detail. But this kitchen is directly below the main hall. They cook all the food. They place it like they would if the kids were down there. And then because it's magic, it just teleports up directly above them to the exact replica of the tables. And it was like, I witnessed that organically. This was not a cutscene. This was not like a mission that they're like, here, come watch this shit go out. I just walked into it. And I was like, this is the like fucking coolest thing ever. And that's just one story in this game of so many things, like the Dark Forest and Dumbledore's breaking into like his thing if you're able to do it on the top tower. So many little things that just completed that power fantasy of being a Harry Potter fan. This game's fucking sick. I know Derek had it on his list. No. Josh, you didn't have it on your list, did you? So it was just Derek. Derek, take it away. How did you feel about this game? Where was it on your list?
Mine was number 2. So
2 it was, yes. Yeah. Mine, that's a good question. Mine was number 4. So this scored 16 points altogether.
That's impressive that just only 2 of us have it on here, and it's this high up on the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game was my game of the year until my game of the year released. It was like you said, it was wish fulfillment. It was growing up with these movies and loving this world and these characters and getting to finally explore this setting. it was an absolute blast. I was obsessed with this game to a degree that I wasn't with any other game this year. Even my favorite game of this year, it didn't like pull me in and have hours melting away out of my day the way this one did, where I would just go off, just like you said, with exploring the castle, and then you go to your classes, and then you meet with a classmate and you do a mission for them, and then you go outside and you get on your broom and you go to Hogsmeade, and then you go to the Dark Forest. There's always something. And then the way that the game was paced, where they're constantly giving you new mechanics and new elements, and like it was doled out in such a tremendous pace that I fell in love with it. And this game probably isn't like anything higher than like a 7 or an 8 if it wasn't Harry Potter. Like in terms of like the actual mechanics of like combat and like the loot systems and the enemy variety and stuff like that, there's some issues there, but I think that when you add on how much I love Harry Potter and how much this game just delivered on every aspect of that universe, it was an absolute blast.
Did anyone else play it at all? Like Josh, did you play it? I know Brian didn't play it.
I didn't play. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on when this game came out. I think I was on Dead Space at the time, and there was something else in my queue, and I was like, I don't want to pay full price for this game. Because again, like,
you weren't
anytime,
the biggest Harry Potter fan either.
No,
like not
I mean,
to the same degree we were, I guess.
Yeah, Mom and Dad forced me to come to the movies after a while and forced me to read the books, and I was kind of like, I get it. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't have the affinity that you two did.
Yeah, totally fair.
So that for me, it was just like, this is something Mom and Dad want me to do that they'll get annoyed or angry about if I don't do this thing. And it just felt like that kind of a situation,
right,
which I'm sure everybody can relate to. I watched the movies. The movies are, in my opinion, is probably unpopular opinion, the movies are fucking mid, all of them. And
okay.
And I was kind of like,
Derek looked just absolutely destroyed by that comment.
There's some that are better than others, for sure. You know what's kind of crazy? Just a sidebar. I won't spend too much time on this. Rupert Grint is in a show I'm watching called Servant right now, and it is oh man, he like I would watch this. Oh yeah, just for Rupert Grint playing a very different type of character. Actually, amazing.
You told me about this show to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I think Daniel Radcliffe does a great job as Harry, like all that stuff. But anyways, all that to say,
yeah, you hate Harry.
He does a mid job. I think there's moments where I fucking hate his acting in that movie.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. And it's also a little unfair sometimes because of how young he was and he grew up in.
He's back. Voldemort's back. Fucking man, there's the greatest TikTok of this guy just being like, fourth movie spoilers, when Cedric Diggory dies, comes back from the Triwizard Tournament, and he's fucking dead. His dad, whatever actor that is, gives one of the greatest performance in cinematic history. This guy is like, you want to shed a tear because you're like, this guy really, like, his son just died and he's losing it, and it hard cuts from that amazing performance to Daniel Radcliffe just like, he's back, Voldemort's back. And it's just like the worst fucking line delivery that can't take it.
There's a lot of things. Hey man, Alan Rickman's the fucking GOAT though, just in general.
Like, R.I.p.
You know what I mean? Oh, and Gary Oldman. You know, there was some like great performances in those movies. Anyways, all that to say, I didn't play it. I don't plan on playing it, but it's also like it's another huge game, and I really gotta get my stomach right for a huge game. Like I'm going through Cyberpunk right now, and I'm missing. But
that's a huge game. If you're going to dedicate your time to one, that's a good choice.
Dude, here's the problem. I'm playing Cyberpunk, and I'm like, if there's even a breath of news about a game I just finished playing, which is probably going to be the game of the year for our list.
Yeah, you're done.
You're ditching Cyberpunk DLC so fast. You know,
we're all in that boat. Don't worry.
I platinum Spider-Man 2, and I'm like, if that adds DLC, I'm out of. Which is a bad way to think about it. It's like I need to like really get into Cyberpunk, but again, anyways, it's maybe not doing Hogwarts.
Josh, do you have any horse in this race? You didn't play Hogwarts, but did you have any comments on it? Did you want to play it? Was it something on your radar?
Like how could it not be on your radar? God, I remember when that leak came out, I think 2 years before, and it was showing like that one clip where it's like a bridge rebuilding itself.
Yeah.
And like
Rebuildo.
it's
literally what it's called, I'm pretty sure. Isn't it? There, it's like something like right on the
I wouldn't be
nose.
surprised if there's a lot of
Reparo.
words of
It's
like,
Reparo. It is Reparo.
Yeah.
It is.
Of course, it's Reparo.
Reparo.
That's a real thing. Yeah.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
and I think that's where I struggled with it too. Just another quick comment on that is like all the shit they had to construct and make up in that world. I was kind of like, some of it's cool, some of it's fucking dumb, and I think that was kind of some of. I'm like, I don't know. Like there's stuff hidden inside of medallions and necklaces, and I don't know. There is a lot of, and it's fantasy, so I get it. It's just not my jam. But I needed it a little more rooted in reality, just for my taste.
That's fair.
Sorry,
fair,
back
yeah.
to Josh though.
No, don't even worry. It was definitely, JK can really, eat it kind of thing. But at the time, it was like I was releasing like the first game that I ever got to work on, so I was just full in on that, and I was like, okay, I can't play shit right now. I was in Montreal. I was like, oh my god, this is like a mess. Like just getting to like put something out the door. It is a miracle any game gets made, let alone a good one. Like being there to press the button to put it like release on Steam. There is no greater like, oh my god, something's gonna fucking break. Like there's no greater anxiety. So
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy could have been a world changing event, and I would not have even clocked it. But yeah, that world's gorgeous. They seem to really, really respect the source material, of what I understand. The only thing I don't know, and I'd love to hear from those of you who played it. So you're like a fifth year, but it's your first year at Hogwarts.
Yeah, you're just like a transfer student. It doesn't
Is
really
there
mean a whole
other-
lot.
There's like other. So did you come from another wizarding school?
No,
I
you're
don't-
like a late bloomer, like how Harry Potter was just like found and you have powers. Like he was just your character, as far as I know, right? You don't know the wizarding world, and then you're just like, oh, here you go. And it's, I guess, their story way of being like, here's how you can get like fast track to do 5 years worth of curriculum and spells in a year, right? So you're not kind of like learning how to flick a feather for 6 months of your semester.
You also have, they explained it in the game, you're able, like no one else, kind of like guess like Harry Potter, you're able to tap into what they call, it's like ancient magic or some form that like no one else is allowed to do. You just have the ability somehow, and that's what like propels you onto this like fast track. It's this story I didn't find revolutionary in any way, but it's that power fantasy. If it doesn't really matter, you're just doing classes. This was the thing. The bully element of like you're going to class, it was very light. Like when
That's
I
what
say like,
wanted out of it.
I wish they really went in hard and really replicated what Bully did with going to school in a video game, because that sounds boring, but it was so fucking good in Bully. They do have a bit of that, and that was pretty cool. Like they fulfilled that, but yeah, just fifth year from I don't know. I don't remember a lot of the backstory, and honestly, it doesn't matter when you play it. It doesn't affect the story.
Like it sounds like the highlights of what I'm understanding are exploring that world, getting to play with the systems that it has, getting to fulfill that like fantasy of like, I want to go here, I want to be on a broom, I want to
Room of requirement. That's one thing before we switch to number 4. The room of requirement is a whole fucking separate thing that they did not need to put in this game, and the fact that they did is such a time sink. It's like the customizable room that basically once you go in it literally starts expanding, and you can portal yourself to like a beach and like a mountain range and customize all of it, like almost Minecraft style, not to the same degree, but you can like build these and customize these worlds and place all your little things and make little factories to give you like ingredients to make potions, or just make potions. Like that is a whole, and that was a really fucking cool addition that they just didn't even need to do.
Oh my god! So like for a room called the Room of Requirement, is it optional? Because it sounds
Pretty much. Yep.
Was
They
optional.
introduce it, and it helps you tremendously in the game to just again get resources and upgrade things and do all these. One of the big things is equipment too. Like you bring back mystery equipment, and it like unlocks stuff. There is stuff to it, but you don't have to do a fucking second of it. So.
Oh, it's also like it's a gear score game too, right?
Yes,
with the
yeah,
Destiny
that I could have done
event and
without
all
that. Honestly, it didn't really affect shit. It just had higher numbers like everything else.
The
But
entire loot system needed work. For sure.
there was transmog, which at least sidestepped a lot of the issues I normally have with that, because I just always made my character look dope as fuck, and the higher the numbers went, I would just transmog the whole time. So no,
it's just like an interest. It's like how every game has a crafting system kind of thing. It's like
yeah, it was half baked for sure. We're on number 4. So given everything we've done up until now, do we have any guesses on number 4?
RE4. It's got to be, because it's 4.
Yeah.
That would be poetic. Everyone's
I'm willing to say Tears of the Kingdom again, but I'll
hard stop on everything. What is in your hand? Is Josh?
Is that Alan Wake?
Was that an Alan Wake? Did you 3D print an Alan Wake fucking thing?
The triangle thing.
We saw that in your
We're,
hand.
we're gonna circle back to this, you motherfucker. Okay,
They're fucking with us hard right now.
number
Let's
4.
have to-
Number 4.
Tears of
Everyone.
the Kingdom.
Could you imagine I fucked up the whole list and it's like, oh no, it's Tears of the Kingdom. This requires some preamble, because we all collectively agreed when we did the list that there was one outlier that we were going to make. And to explain it to everyone listening, when we did this list, obviously it's games that 2003 or 2023 releases. This is not, I played a game that came out 5 years ago, but it's my game. No. Out of 2023, for the sake of people listening, what are our favorite games that released this year? There's one exception we made that I think completely justifies it, given the updates, the coming out party of 2.0, and that is Cyberpunk. Phantom Liberty is our number 4. And we have all played, well, I know Brian hasn't played Phantom Liberty, but he's played the 2.0 Cyberpunk release. The three of us have played a little bit, if not all, of Phantom Liberty. Holy shit. There's a combination here. I know Derek and I are in the same boat of having played this game when it released. I was the one that convinced him, and it was
It made me feel so bad for missing out on that game. You're like, it's going to be a world-changing event. You have to buy
And
it.
hey, in retrospect, I wasn't wrong, okay? You're at least part of the conversation, but you at least had the insight into what was going on, because you actually were the one that sent me it running on the PS4.
Yeah.
And wow, this is the thing. We got it on PS5, day one, came out, broken, but it worked on PS5. Like, there was things that didn't work. There was things that were promised that just never came. But on PS4, on Xbox One, this game should have never, ever even been a thought of being released. Or it should have gotten to a stage where they were like, we got to axe this, because this game does not fucking work. Evidence that the fact that Phantom Liberty didn't even come out on the last gen consoles. So, game comes out, me and Derek buy it. Honestly, I had a fucking blast with this game, with full transparency, seeing all the flaws and the bullshit and everything that was wrong with this game. I loved it. The parkour aspect, I was trying to break the game every chance I got. The world is still, to this day, I think one of my favorite, in terms of aesthetics, favorite open world. It's just gorgeous. I love the design. Everything just breathes my colors. I mean, pixel candy. It's neon pink purples. I love that shit. This is my bread and butter. The first person aspect of just being this person in Night City. It was a fucking good experience, but it was broken as shit. Fast forward, 2023, I have played the PS5 updated version, which was great. The 1.5 was like a phenomenal leap forward. Derek and I both got into the PC game around September, right? You got it before me. But September, now we have access to the PC version. Shout out Josh, thank you, by the way, because playing through Phantom Liberty 2.0 on PC is fucking insane. This and Alan Wake 2 are two titles that I can not speak highly enough, that running on PC at ultra, everything fucking set to balls out max, this will convert anyone to be okay, I understand what people are talking about. When PC shit works, this is the experience you want. The game looks absolutely unreal. The ray tracing, the path tracing, just the lighting and the way it gives atmosphere to the city in a way it did not on PS5. And I was happy with the way it ran on PS5. I had no problems. I enjoyed the living shit out of the game. Now seeing it on PC, there is this extra layer, and atmosphere is the only word I can think of. You can feel like the morning dew in the air. You know what I mean? Like that, like in real life, when you get up at certain times of the day, there's a different feel outside based on the lighting, like light coming through your window, and you see all the little particles flying up, like that type of shit. It's all there. And this was such a fucking good experience. Never mind just Phantom Liberty being a really cool expansion, the 2.0 changes, Idris Elba, ridiculously good. Like almost better than Johnny Silverhand, I think, in terms of like a performance. I love Keanu Reeves, but like Idris Elba just nails the like spy dude. Yes. And being biased on this, I just love a good like spy story thing. I've always have espionage shit. And this did a really good job.
I didn't know that was the storyline for Phantom Liberty. That gets me even more excited.
Yeah, so he's like a secret agent for the new USA, and man, just a really fucking solid experience. So this, what's the total here? 20 between everyone. I had it ranked as it was lower on mine. I had it as 8.
Yeah,
I believe, Brian, you had it down as 6, and then both Derek and Josh, you had it as 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
I buy that. It like that game. There's like layers to how I think about this fucking game now. Because to bring it back to Stadia, I played it on Stadia.
I keep forgetting about that.
Were you like an investor in Stadia? Why are you so hot on Stadia? I feel like it didn't even. I feel like it didn't even like fully launch. Like, what was up with that, Stadia?
It worked, but at the time, I didn't have my current PC. I didn't have any next gen consoles. I was like,
that makes more sense. So you went to the cloud. You trusted the cloud.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
And it worked. Like, to the point where now, at any moment, I have my Stadia controller beside me because it's just like a well-made controller. I got it for $10 off of Kijiji. But it worked fine personally for me. It wasn't the best looking. It looked like a standard console port. And the only reason I say it's not the best looking is because I've seen it on PC. It is like night and day. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to explain it. You have to see it to believe it.
Yes.
It's like it runs smoother. It's like the crowds are more dense. The way that just all the post-processing effects and like it just overall looks what we thought it was going to look like.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, these 2.0 changes of how they changed the skill tree. Like, yeah, it was kind of annoying to have to re-put in all my points into the skill tree.
For the third time.
But, oh my god. But it's like, you can see they're like, okay, this is how the next game's going to work. Like, Cyberpunk 2, or whatever they're going to call it, it's like, this is how it's going to be. We have a direction now.
Yep.
It's going to be like this, and it's going to feel good. Because now we're like, it doesn't have to be everything. Like, you can see from the direction of the DLC. They're like, this doesn't have to be everything. This is a spy thriller. This is our direction we're going to do.
Yeah.
And you can see that with the changes of everything, with the way things are rebalanced, with the way that your RPG mechanics are working in Phantom Liberty. They're like, we want it to be an RPG. Because, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they see Baldur's Gate, they're like, oh, we should have like a lot of follow through and all this other stuff.
God, if the narrative path marries with Cyberpunk, it's over. That'll be
don't
like.
Get your hopes up. That's not happening. There's no way in hell. But like them even leaning on those RPG elements in the DLC, like your choices actually matter all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's not like baby things like, you know, you're nice to the Arasaka guy or you say some quippy bullshit and then you shoot a guy or some, you know how it is. It's actually choices matter and like people actually follow through and different things happen, but I won't spoil that. The last thing I'll say about it, because I'm still not fully way through Phantom Liberty.
Oh, okay.
Has anyone seen the trailer for that game? That live action trailer.
The CGI one?
It won an award, and it was super realistic looking. Yeah, at the Golden Joysticks. I don't know why there's an award for best trailer, but it won.
I'll get in on that. But
there's an art form to trailers, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, look at
yeah, I
any Metal
guess.
Gear trailer. Look at any Metal Gear trailer, and you will see it. But it's like the
Fair point.
The whole thing about Phantom Liberty, like that trailer, it's just like you follow Idris Elba, all this stuff, blah 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 blah, and then like he ends it off. He says, and the last thing you think about or whatever is the game is fixed, and it's like the double entendre of that being like, play our fucking game, you know it's good, and the kind of like spy nature of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's just the confidence that they have now. Back, like it reminds me of when they revealed it, like that first trailer we saw with like the lady with the mantis like arms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like that confidence is back, and I'm like, okay, show me what's next.
Hell
That's
yeah.
what I want to see. But sorry, someone take it.
No, all really good points. Derek, you did beat it, right? Like you got all the way through, finished the storyline.
No, I'm
shit.
I'm around the same point. I'm like maybe three quarters of the way through. So yeah, I've been enjoying it all the way through. I'm not even currently playing it. Like I'll have to go back to it and finish it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite the experience, especially like you said, going from the very beginning all the way to where it is now and seeing it on PC. This was the first game I really booted up on PC and got to see what it's capable of. And I think to both your points, I'm not going to go over the same stuff again, but the biggest thing that I would take away is just there's nothing that pulls you out of the experience. You can talk about how like crisp this looks or how cool this lighting looks, but there's not really a single area in that game when it's running the way it's supposed to be running. Like it feels like this is the experience that was promised to us 3.5 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
There's not a single area that looks like fake. It looks like it's pulling you out of the experience. It's just a fully immersive city that's just you want to get lost in, and I've gotten lost in this game for 20 or 40 hours every year for the last 3 years. It's a yearly cycle. It's just let's go play some more Cyberpunk because they updated it again, right?
Well, and that has been nice to be able to come back and relive in the world. And like I've really taken the time, and there's not many games I do this in. I really don't fast travel in that game a lot. I call my car. I got the Cthulhu fucking Type 66 thing that's like my favorite car in the world. It looks like a Dodge Challenger on steroids. This thing pulls up, and like I just love, especially now looking at it on PC, just driving through the city. It doesn't matter what time of day. The fucking game looks so good that navigating through everything is so much fun. And that was definitely one of the highlights. But Brian, you haven't played Phantom Liberty, but you did play a little bit of like the main game. So I just want to get like on air your thoughts of kind of first impressions of playing it.
So I'm on it right now. I'm Johnny Silverhand. My girlfriend was just taken. So that doesn't give away
spoilers,
too much.
dude. No, okay.
No,
it's the main game. It's like how old? It's totally fine. You can spoil it.
Well, and even that, it's like that doesn't really. People are like, who like that won't even make. Anyways, it's I'm at that point, so I think that's almost the end of Act 2, and then Act 3 starts like going into the different endings and stuff like that. Because there are different endings in this game, from what I've heard. Anyways, I agree with all the points that have been made. It's one of those games where it's like I should not have played it off the heels of Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2, because as good as it is, it does not fucking even stand up a little bit to the first two, in my opinion. So like, I don't know. I think we talked about timing, and to go back to even Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom, and the reason why is because when I played Breath of the Wild, it was a terrible timing for me to play that game. And I feel like, honestly, as much as I love Cyberpunk, this is a bad time. It was not good to play that after
That's fair.
After Alan Wake and Spider-Man. So, but I that being said, I'm still enjoying it. I think you know what's crazy is like some of the details in that game. At one point, I was like, "Why the fuck am I moving so slow? Why can't I run?"
Oh, you're over encumbered.
Too many guns. Carrying too many guns. I'm like, "Oh, that's a cool
rookie
thing
mistake."
To put in there. Rookie mistake. So. A lot of good systems. I think they redid the skill tree in the 2.0 update, I heard.
Yeah.
The skill tree makes a ton of sense. So, yeah, no, I've been playing it. I feel like it's another one of those games where I'll finish the main story and it'll still be like 200 hours I could play in this game.
There's a lot to go through, yeah. I was just at Connor's on the weekend, and he had never seen, or like he's heard of it, but he had never seen the original Ghost in the Shell anime. And he's a huge Cyberpunk fan. So we sat down and he watched for the first time ever that original anime. Let me tell you, the amount of fucking crossover from that directly into Cyberpunk, not just like the whole cyborg and like whatever, you know, like stylistic choices they made of Night City, all of it. The spider tank thing you fight in Phantom Liberty. I believe if you're halfway through, you've all seen that so far. That is directly, like unapologetically, from Ghost in the Shell. And having just rewatched that, there was so much. I feel like what was the show, Edge Runners? Every time I see like these things in the Cyberpunk universe, I love that game so much that I feel like compelled. I'm like, I just want to go and like walk around Night City. Like, that's how good that fucking map is. And I love that it actually finally got, I guess, everything that it deserves with the 2.0 update and bringing everything back up to what we were promised.
For sure. Good story, because like CD Projekt Red was in a bad fucking way, if we remember.
Yeah.
Because of this is a bad situation, and then because if you remember, this happened, and then all these layoffs started. This was like during COVID, everything spiked, and then all the layoffs started like a year after that. So it's a good story. That I don't know. Was there layoffs at CD Projekt Red?
I mean, recently with all, I don't know, but back then probably.
Not right now. I know more than half of the team is working on that new Witcher game.
Right.
And then they're going to move to Project Yellow, I think it's called, which is the next Cyberpunk thing. But right now, they've been pretty like head in the sand kind of deal. Good
story, because like that game. The failure of that game, I don't know what the economics are for CD Projekt Red, but it would have been a bad situation if it stayed as bad as it was. For it to come back like that, I think...
That's the thing, right? Like, they corrected the ship, and fucking this is the proof. Like, the 2.0 plus the actual, like, expansion itself is just proof that they're doing, like, everything in their power, and they fucking nailed it. It's... it's number 4, collectively. Between us 4, we voted this as number 4...
most obvious
top 10 in 2023. That's insane. So
it makes me wonder though, like, was it ever too big to fall? Because that's the thing. Like, there's a few things going up against
a good question.
One, Cyberpunk's a big thing. People love Cyberpunk right now. Steampunk is out, Cyberpunk is in. Cyberpunk's huge right now. 2, who hasn't heard of CD Projekt Red after The Witcher 3?
Yeah.
Who heard of them before The Witcher 3? That's the big thing. It's like Witcher 3, that's like a staple. And it's also like an open world first person shooter. Like, it's safe.
It really does
like,
hit all
I'm
the
not
things.
saying it's not like a bad game by any like stretch of the imagination. I love it. But I'm like, is it the success story that I think it is? Because look at something like No Man's Sky, where they're like they like, truthfully, let's be honest, they kind of fucked up like hard.
Yep.
And like they could have just ate it. They could have completely ate it. And then look at it now. People fucking love that game. That game is like a $60 game now. That game launched at I think 30 or 40, and
it was discounted,
because like the amount of quality that they work towards it. But I don't know. I'm just like, is there a world where Cyberpunk wouldn't have succeeded in one way or another? Because like,
it's a good point, honestly.
There's some studios that are big and IPs that are big that don't make the comeback that try. Like, I think maybe it's not quite the same comparable, but Anthem. I'd even say one that me and you experienced is Battlefield 2042. I mean,
I don't want to talk about that, man.
Like, it was
so
awful.
upsetting.
They're still updating that game. They're still doing map updates and everything, and it's not
the
really
damage is done.
There's no traction there, right? Despite the trying. So like, as much as we can look at a game that had the redemption story and kind of think like, like we wouldn't just be nice to have released at a steady state. It's not easy to have that comeback, and you have to applaud a studio that's able to do it, even if they are as well known and as well respected as CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, that's
weird.
true.
It's weird that we had so many awesome games this year, and the industry has suffered so many losses. And I think on that side of it, with all the losses, it's nice to see this bright spot, you know, and for them to be in these categories. Like they might win a Game of the Year award for best ongoing title, which is kind of cheese because it's not really an ongoing title. However, I think if they're gonna win anything, it'll be that.
Yeah,
and I think they deserve it. So hopefully they get something at Game Awards. Honestly.
It's a hard argument because it's also like, it is a single player campaign game That
Yeah,
game
it's
has
not-
had its
it's
time.
not live
It
service,
became-
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's not a live service game. If Phantom Liberty alone, one different story.
Yeah.
But it's a little more nuanced.
Yeah.
And also, to jump on the Battlefield thing real quick, Cyberpunk has more than double the amount of Battlefield players right now.
I believe
At
it.
this
Yeah.
very second. But also, Battlefield, I'm wondering, like, genuinely, did it fail to them, like, in the fiscal? Because it's like, there's still 16,000 people playing, and all the people that are gonna, just buy it, never play it.
Well,
They got
I say how
$900, man.
yeah,
Like,
I
they
say
got
how
my money.
heartbroken. Like I genuinely am heartbroken at what happened with that game, and I think it was a huge failure. Design, everything about it was not, as a Battlefield veteran, what I wanted. I have 100 hours in that game, so it's like I can't really. I still played it because I'm just like I can't miss out on. If I'm gonna trash talk it, I need to know every fucking nook and cranny. And there was a lot of redeemable shit with that game, but
You
I
gotta
don't
say
want to go
one
down that
nice
road.
thing.
I'm really sad
Say
about
one
it.
nice thing about Battlefield before we move on. You gotta say one thing that you like about
I mean, no, honestly, like it having it on console and like having that player count was really cool for certain things. There was moments in that game that, like, the Battlefield moments, having the 132 people, I think it was, like, insane. Like it did create chaos, but that was also its Achilles heel, is like it they didn't build the maps properly for it, and it was like dead in certain areas, and then other places it's like 64 people versus 64 people.
It's just anarchy and everything's
Yeah.
going crazy.
But anyways, let's move on to the final three, which I feel like we just at this point know exactly what they are. So what are we thinking between the three made it
Resident Evil 4.
to our three?
I'm gonna say Resident Evil 4 as well for number 3.
I'm just trying to see where Snake Eater fits in all of it. I put it at number
Hey.
1.
Yo, listen, if Delta had released this year, I wouldn't even, it's like Alan with the Jurassic Park thing. It's like I wouldn't even have to play it. I'd be
It's
like,
my
number
game of the
one,
year. I haven't
don't
even
talk
played
to
it
me.
yet.
I haven't even played it yet.
It is Resident Evil 4, the remake, which I don't even. To me,
This
it doesn't
high
need
for a
that.
remake is insane.
Yeah, how
Well,
many
here-
points did it get?
Such a good.
So it has 22 points collectively, but I'll tell you right now, it was my number 3 for the year because.
Same here.
I mean, I have a lot to say about this game. I'll try and wrap it up quick. I mean, Brian, you had it as number
Mine was
5.
lower. Yeah, mine was 5.
You had as 5. Derek, you had as number 6, and Josh, you had as number 8. So still number 3, like 22 points altogether. This was my number 3 because I'm trying to separate the fact that this was a remake, even though that's impossible, because my history with the original is so fucking ingrained with why I'm even playing games in the first place. Like, that is a core game building memory for me, right? But that fucking remake, man, this is what I was saying before. Capcom knows what they're doing with the remakes. Like, as a fan that was like, you're remaking 4, you remade 2, you remade 3, like hit and miss, with 2 being amazing, 3 cutting content left, right, and center.
3 was just short. I feel like 3 for what it was great too.
Well, they cut entire
quality, yeah.
sections
Yeah,
out of
they
the
should've-
middle.
They should have just been more.
It ran and looked
closer.
just like 2, so you would have
Yeah.
figured it would be the same, but it wasn't because it content lacked. But
The original
4,
3, that
Two
was my
had more
favorite, too.
content.
It did. It was so weird.
and that's why 4 being what it was and having the legacy that it did at the time and what it fucking did for gaming is still insane to this day when you really analyze when it came out in 2002 and broke the industry. That was the Cyberpunk back then, but it didn't suck. It came out and crushed everything. So knowing a remake was coming out, I was like, please don't fuck this up. Like, there was such high expectations. And the fact that they changed so much, there's to anyone here that has played the original, a lot of 4 is different. They went radically different in some areas, but they did keep the game relatively the same. I beat that game fucking 6 times in a row. Like, released, downloaded on day 1, beat it, started immediately, and I did that 6 times in a row.
It's like 6 hours or 8 hours.
Oh, yeah, once you know
Well,
what
no,
it
the
is,
first playthrough I think was like 15 hours or
50,
something like
but
that.
then the second one's like
Once
8
you
or
get the
6.
infinite rocket launcher, you can beat the game in like 3 hours.
Exactly.
But this is why I love, especially Resident Evil and survival horror, is doing that, right? Building up your arsenal and playing the game in a fucking different way every single time. Knives only runs.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So
that was a trophy for Village. Remember that? A knife only run?
And that was so fun to do.
It
was so much fun. So 4 doing everything that it did, and I'm playing through the DLC right now, by the way, phenomenal. That game just, it did everything I needed a remake to do. It kept everything intact that I loved about the original. But like I said, it changed. Like the way that just obviously Leon moves and operates. It's a modern feeling game. But they changed, like, they didn't change like story elements, but just the way you kind of navigate the map. Things are radically different, and like they added a lot of like the blue medallion things to collect, little things like that. Keeping the fucking gem collecting and the treasure to just like get your money and get the dopamine hit of like, yeah, what are you buying, and selling fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that economy of upgrading your guns. The gameplay loop in 4 back in 2002 was what drove me to be like, this is one of the best Resident Evils, because despite that original trilogy, they did not have that replayability of like, let's upgrade your guns, let's buy a whole new fucking arsenal and play the game a different way than I did before. And that was what made me go through the game so many times. And like, it's ridiculous. I think I've sent you guys the screenshot of what my briefcase looks like. It's like, it's all health, and it's like an infinite rocket launcher, and then just like all of the weapons. I love that shit. So it pretty much hit everything I wanted. And I honestly, I don't know if I wish I had constructive criticism, and maybe I'm too biased, but I don't.
I've got 1 point. On this. The RNG gumball machine can straight get fired.
Yes. Thank you. That you are 100% right, because again, 6 times in a row, and I still, with 230 tokens, have not gotten the one charm that I wanted, which was allowing Leon to run 20% faster.
Which
that
is
charm,
still way slower than most runs in most other
but
games.
that would have changed the game completely. Like him running 20% faster, I wanted, and I have 230 tokens, something like that.
Like 3 tokens to get each pull or something.
Yeah, so I've done it where I sit there and I exhaust every combination of gold and silver tokens I can in hopes of getting it. I've done it 15 times and it hasn't happened. So my coins are just sitting there on the save file. But yes, that's a fucking pain point for sure.
Yeah. Other than that, the game's incredible. And it was my game of the year until because like if you look at my list, it's number 5. The games that are ahead of it, it might not have been game of the year. It was my number 2, because to me, Dead Space, I don't know why. They were like neck and neck, and I gave Dead Space more love on this list because I just felt like it got fucked everywhere else. But like Mario Wonder, Spider-Man, and Alan Wake, before those games came out, Resident Evil 4, I was like, oh man, this is the shit. Like this is so well done. And like again, going back to like the audio we were talking about with Dead Space, the audio is really well done in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the different developments they did with the mechanics, I'm just like, it really felt that was kind of one of the key differences with Dead Space. Dead Space felt like a PS3 game that looked pretty. Resident Evil 4 Remake felt like a PS5 game. Like if you had never played the other one, you wouldn't have even known the difference, in my opinion. Like they really built it from the ground up, which I appreciated. Same with Resident Evil 2. Funny enough, I like Resident Evil 2 better, but that's because I think the story is a little more classic and a little less some weird Spanish flu has floated into
the police
village.
station is just such a good
setting
too.
It's iconic.
Mr. X, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. X scared the shit out of me, man. I played that game during COVID in the dark, and I was like, oh man, the world might end, and this guy might kill me in this game, and I don't know what's going on, and it was bad.
Those footsteps are just intimidating.
Yeah. Smacks open a fucking door.
So antagonizing.
Derek, you became a big Resident Evil fan in the last like decade, having played 7 was your first?
7 was my first. Yeah, I
hadn't
played any of the original.
Yeah. So what are your overall kind of impressions? We've talked about it, but just for the show.
Yeah, I mean, for Resident Evil 4, I think for what it was trying to do, it is an absolutely phenomenal game. It did everything expertly. The combat system, the level design, the actual characters, the graphics. The game looks gorgeous. But it's even just the art style, and everything is so well produced and so well done that I can fully understand how you can't find any faults in it. And even myself, the faults that I do have are just personal things of like I prefer the slower pace, the more methodical, like you have 3 bullets and 1 health kit and you're just creeping
Yeah.
down a hallway and you're freaking out, versus like I've got a machine gun, 8 health kits and 4,000 bullets and I'm gonna wreck house.
Yeah.
Right, it's a completely different game, and I just prefer one over the other. And for what this did, it was absolutely incredible. I actually enjoyed it more on my second playthrough. I played through it immediately after beating it, which is pretty rare for me. Usually once I play through a game, even if it's not that long, I'm usually kind of like, okay, I'm done with this. But with this one, I immediately booted back up, put the difficulty up, started doing challenge runs and trying doing like collecting all the items and like 100% kind of completionist playthrough. And yeah, it really won me over by the end. And it's really just personal issues or personal preferences that keep it from being higher up on this list.
That's totally fair. Yeah. Josh, I know you played it. Did you beat it?
No, but I did play Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube for the first time this year too.
Oh shit. Okay. On GameCube too, like the original release.
Oh yeah, I got a copy years ago, like the 2 discs. I was just like, I'll play it one day. And I just decided to go for it this year. That game holds up incredibly well. I don't know, last time you guys played it, holy shit does that game hold up. To this day, where you're like, even, like, and I got a hunch I'm probably with my people, but it's like, I love tank controls. I am all in on tank controls.
I got some love for old school tank controls. For sure.
If there was a tank control option in Remake, I would fucking do it, dude.
Oh hell yeah!
I would kill to have a tank control option. It's just a different kind of Resident Evil 4. It's almost like Resident Evil 4 if they like got to do it again.
Yeah.
But like we're able to still like have the bones, like because the game's got a lot of meat on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's still Resident Evil 4, which is like a beefy arcadey game. And it's like no one's ever been like, oh, Resident Evil 4 is the scariest game ever. Resident Evil 4 is goofy as shit. It's funny.
It is. I love it.
It like the ballistics line. I'm so sad it's gone, but it was hilarious. And like all these like, it doesn't mind being like campy and funny. And I think it takes it a little more seriously in the remake. Just by sheer comparison.
It does. Yeah.
And it's like, that's fine. It's just a creative choice. It's like what you were saying. It's like, my nitpicks are just going to be that. It'll be nitpicks. It's not things that I would say are, like, inherently breaking the game. But it's like, it's a solid game. It really, like, refines that formula they had in 2. The combat's really good. It's gorgeous. It runs pretty well. I don't know. In a weird way, it made me want to play 7 again. I mean, sorry, not 7.
I had that feeling.
They're so different.
Oh, 8. Yeah,
No,
8 similar. 8, yeah,
okay,
Village.
Yeah, sorry. I totally fumbled that. But it made me want to play 8 because the beginning of 8 it's just 4. It's the exact same thing.
That entire
But
game
it's-
is very similar, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. like it is balls to the wall. Like almost the same thing until you get to like the very last bit of 8 with the jars and shit. But that wouldn't be out of place in 4. And it's just so interesting that, I don't know, something about 8 really, really resonated with me. I think maybe the first-person perspective did more than I thought. And, like, the kind of... everyone here has played through 8, I'm
Oh,
guessing?
hell yeah. I did the same thing. Beat it like 4 times in a row.
We're still salty. We don't have the platinum.
We have 98%.
Mercenaries mode.
Yeah.
Mercenaries mode is
Fuck
such a
Mercenaries. Capcom, why did you do this to me?
Dude, Mercs mode is fun in 8.
It is fun, not when it requires you to get S rank in every single map.
I couldn't do it. Like,
crazy.
Yeah.
like it, but seeing like a professional do it, I'm like, holy shit, this is
Crazy.
amazing. But and like looking at 4, just in terms of like what it is now to what it was back then.
Yeah.
I think 4 could come out now and still do good. And I think in this shape, I think it would do good. Do I think it would do good if it wasn't tied to Resident Evil at all?
Oh, that's interesting. Anytime you
I don't
separate
know.
IP, it gets interesting. You know what? You said it made you want to play 8. It makes me want to play 7. It actually, Resident Evil 4 was so good, it makes me want to replay all the modern ones. So 7, 8, remake of 2, remake of 3. it makes me want to play all of those again. That's how good it was. I was just like, man, fucking Capcom just nails it. 5 and 6 from back in the day were god awful in my opinion, but like 1, 2, and 3.
For shame.
Alan's the only one that likes it. Josh,
I love both of them, especially as co-op games.
I am a 5 gameplay apologist. That game is like crack when you have a friend.
When it's co-op, it's such a fucking good co-op game. And this is the question I wanted to ask, Josh. This is actually in relation to, okay, so what Derek was saying about like liking 2 better for like the I only have 2 bullets and all that shit. You mentioned the tank controls and all that stuff. Have you played the latest remake of Resident Evil 1?
Like you're talking about like our remake.
like-
It was the
like
GameCube remake
PS1
of the
up-res.
PS1, but like they've up-res it
oh.
for like PS3 and PC and PS5 and like all that shit. Have you played that one?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Because that to me, when you said tank controls,
Yeah, that's a great game.
to what Derek was saying, like a lot of people fucking hate tank controls, but when you look at Resident Evil 1, it combines the control. It combines that control scheme, the fixed camera angle, and the fact that you only have like 1, 2, 3 bullets. But this is the thing, it's just like you're going down that hallway and let's say you're coming towards the camera. For the first time, you don't know what's around that corner. And it's not like a traditional game where you can just kind of peek around. You will not know until you break that line of sight and it changes, and they use that against you throughout the entire game to trip you up, have new enemies come in, and it's this fucking tense ass moment. I'm not saying I need like a modern version of that, but I just wanted to bring it up because it reminds me of like a time.
The crows, dude. The crows coming through the window. And
Yes,
you
the
turn-
dogs
great.
breaking through the glass. Like there's something to be said about that old fucking classic version of like Resident Evil games that I still go back to 1 and I love the shit out of it. For all the reasons we've said collectively on the whole franchise. It's just that survival horror aspect is so pure, you know?
Dude, and 1 you can miss a lot. That's what I love. Is there's a really non-linearness about 1 that like things aren't always in the same place. Like I remember
It's a hard game.
It's fucking so hard. And
Get
like, I
the crank
remember-
handle to open the door. It's like a fucking escape room.
That was
escape
dude.
rooms were based on these games.
Does anyone remember the PlayStation Portable Go? The little flip phone, like the flip up one? Yeah. So if there's a game I played more than anything else, it was fucking Resident Evil 1 for PlayStation 1 on the little... That's probably where my hand cramps come from, is that fucking stupid system. Yeah, good times. Good times. And we're probably due for like next PlayStation Showcase, I'm calling it. We're going to get a Resident Evil announcement 100%. For something. 9.
It'll be 9.
Or Resident Evil 5 remake. But
It'll be 9. Don't remake Chris
I don't think they're
Punching
touching
Boulders. No one
5
cares.
right
No
now.
one cares.
I guess they've been doing the first person and remakes.
I think I said it last time on the podcast, but it's like they're at a point where they're like, we've had a really good run with Resident Evil.
Yeah.
We gotta stop,
gonna
guys.
Fuck it up again, or
Yeah, they're ready to
what
fuck
are
it up
we gonna
again
do?
for sure. For sure.
Come on, 9.
We're nearing the end. We're getting there. This has been a very long show, but a fucking awesome show so far because I love talking about all this stuff. We're down to the final 2. I mean, do you guys... No one needs to guess.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
Yes, Spider-Man 2 is our second game of 2023. And, man, what a fucking good time.
What a fun time.
Before I throw it to anybody, I'll just say my quick piece about this game being that it is just that pure... fun-ass time that is not interrupted by pretty much any bullshit. Like, even the Mary Jane sections, which I don't know why they brought back. They got such hate on in the first game, but even those, whatever.
Pretty
They were
enjoyable.
totally fine.
They were good, yeah.
The movement
her a
system.
gun.
That's true.
In the end,
She's a badass.
when you have to go and
but
use that
yeah.
shit, I was like, this is
yeah,
a little
everyone's gonna
hardcore.
smoke.
There's like a trained army of soldiers that are like trained for like 30, 40 years to like just hunt and be aware of their surroundings. And there's this chick in a leather jacket with a fucking taser. Just
And
taking them all out.
two Spider-Men that could have done the job that she needed to do, but they fuck off to do other shit. It was great. Narrative, I thought, was really fascinating. We talked a lot about who we thought was going to be Venom and the way they kind of tease you as to like where it's going and who you partner up with, and the whole narrative structure of that game was just keeping me on my toes, which I appreciate. But when it comes down to gameplay, man, like fucking was it 2018 that Spider-Man came out?
Yeah.
That like
Another loaded year for gaming in general. God of War, Spider-Man,
Red Dead 2?
Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Fuck. Man, so like
RE7?
RE7 maybe.
yes, I think
No,
so.
that was 2017.
17.
Was it? Well, still, good couple of years for gaming.
2017, you're right.
Flying or webbing around in that game, that is a game. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to boot up Tony Hawk and not do fucking anything. I wasn't playing like the game and like unlocking stuff and doing, you know,
There's no
the
warehouse,
missions.
living your life.
It was just, I would just skate. And I would literally, for hours, I would just skateboard in the world doing nonsensical things that had no progression or whatever. I miss those days of like, you don't have to play the game for a reason. You're just playing the game. Spider-Man has this thing in it that taps into that part of my brain where I could just web around that city, flight suit, the wingsuit, and like just switch between Miles and Peter and the way that the combat works. It's all stuff we're familiar with. But similar to what I said about Zelda, this to me was 2018 just perfected. They really just took it, everything they had learned, everything that was already pretty fucking killer, and took it and dialed it up to 11. Like, this was so much fun to play. I think I'd just beaten Baldur's Gate and this game came out. So going from a game that's pretty intensive, it did require me to go online and learn all the shit like I was saying, to just this like fun ass game similar to Mario Wonder. It's just pure enjoyment. Like, I had so much intense fun with this game, and there was so much more to it as well, which I'm sure you all will speak about. But yeah, number 2, I think it deserves it. It's being a sequel. It was a worthy sequel. It was a fun ass sequel, and I'm just glad we get to get our hands on shit like this. You know,
It's a very enjoyable platinum too.
yeah,
I think like
And, yeah, quick platinum.
yeah.
quick
Have you guys all
platinum.
gotten it? All three of you got the platinum now?
I did,
Not
Brian.
me.
I think
did,
Brian
yeah.
and I, yeah.
I did it the other night. It's my 10th platinum. Feel real good about that. It's not a lot of platinum.
Congratulations,
it's an
man.
exclusive group. It's an exclusive group.
That's no, honestly.
The wingsuit, I agree with everything Alan said. I think it did perfect 2018 really well. I thought the story was really well thought out. I liked how they did like extended cutscenes where they're explaining Peter and Harry's relationship in a lot more depth, or they're explaining Mary Jane and Peter's relationship in a lot more depth. I thought Miles, like Josh, we talked about this when you were on the show. I think Miles is so corny and like he's too nice to be real, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I think he was a little bit dialed too much to be a bit of a pussy. And that was my only gripe. And my other thing that I thought, I don't know if this is like a problem or not, but I felt like Craven's story kind of ended. And I'm like, but the hunters are still
Oh, it
around.
ends.
And like, no, I know, but like then it goes to Venom, and I'm like, well, I don't. It felt like there was too much. It felt like a bit like Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire. Was it Sam Raimi who did that movie?
Yeah.
It felt
Yeah.
a little bit like you guys are really overloading me with villains, and like, I don't know. I felt like
I
there was,
do
like,
wish there was
two
a
big
little like
pieces here and, like,
20% less Craven and give that to the
Yeah.
Venom story. If I could change something, I wish there was a little more.
Yeah, I felt
Yeah.
like that was a little bit weird. It could have been I mean, this is the thing with Spider-Man games. Depending on how you play them, if you do a bunch of side stuff first, if you golden path the whole thing and don't do side stuff at all, maybe it's different. I don't know. But that was my only gripe with it. Other than that, it is smooth as butter. It's literally, I always compare it like we're about to talk about a game that is very much like Oppenheimer from a movie perspective,
Yeah.
and this was Avengers Endgame. Like, you can't really compare those two because they're both set out on different objectives. So it's almost unfair to compare it to what I guarantee number one's going to be.
I didn't even say, does anyone have a guess on what the score collectively was for this one? So with Resident Evil 4, 22. Anyone want to take a shot? It was 30.
8. It was 30. Oh, wow.
30, yeah. We all had it pretty high. I had it as number 5. Brian, you had it as number 2. Derek, you had it as number 4. And then Josh, you had it as number 3. So it's all like, it's pretty high on all our lists.
Oh, like going off of what you're saying, Ryan, like with what number 1 is most definitely going to be Tears of the Kingdom. It's like when you look at Spider-Man.
I love how we're not saying it. It's like Voldemort. You know what I mean? We're like, we're not going to
Don't
say
say
it
its
until
name.
we get there.
But it's like they're two games excelling at what they want to do, And that's the thing. It's like, for all the shit I can give Spider-Man for being exactly what we thought it was going to be, it is exactly what the doctor ordered, though. It's like
comfort food, man.
Doesn't need to be different.
But it is like your favorite meal from your favorite restaurant that you don't.
You know what mac and cheese bites are going to taste like? You know, they're going to be good and really bad for you. You know,
exactly. But it's like with like I think I don't know if I was talking to you on the podcast, but it's like this is just Arkham City again. Like that feeling I had when Arkham City came out, where I was like, holy shit, I could just go around this place for hours. I could look at all these fun costumes I got, look at all these fun different enemies that I can do, and all this other shit. But I think I do agree with what you're saying about, like, especially with the story. It's like, Kraven's like, oh, okay, all right, we're done with Kraven. Then it's like, all right, Venom time.
It feels like a hard right turn.
Yeah.
He just kills him off. He's like, okay, and we're going over here. Okay.
Oh, man. And that fight's so climactic and awesome. And it's so fucking exciting to do. And the fact that you get to be in the fight is such a great twist on, like, what I thought it was going to be. Like, they're just like, no. You get to feel, like, the power that Venom has. And I thought that was so awesome. Because it's like, you can show him eating fucking 900 dudes and being like, oh, okay, that could be
They
me.
really went for it with that. I didn't expect how gruesome it was.
A Venom game. I want a Venom game now. I want to just do that in, like, the streets, like, prototype, where you just can throw cars and stuff at people and, like, rampage. Give me that, but for Venom in this universe.
So intuitive, too. Amazing. Oh, my God. No matter who you were in that game, I felt like the controls were so intuitive. All the powers were sweet. They really made the combat system deliberate across gadgets and across powers, which I feel like 18 was like, oh, my God, I could press 1,900 buttons here. But it was very, like, combos made more sense, and, oh, man, it was,
it was dude. Great. I totally agree. Like, I played on the hardest difficulty.
Spectacular mode.
Yeah, me too.
And you actually had to kind of like get in on the combos. You had to get in on your gadgets because these guys are taking you out relatively easily.
Especially the boss fights.
Yeah.
Oh, fights.
Some of those were grueling. Yeah.
All the boss fights were like 3 stage at least. I feel
like. Long.
Oh yeah, and like
I remember when I did Croc, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
this is not Dark Souls.
I forgot about Croc because like Croc just kind of enters and then leaves.
This is what I mean. It felt like Spider-Man 3. It felt like Tobey Maguire dancing in the street a little bit with like Miles' corniness.
I feel like that's just a staple now. We just got to accept that anything Spider-Man is just going to have a lot. Okay, it's just a lot, but they did it. They did it well.
Like the first one,
and No Way Home did it well too.
There was a bunch in that one, so like as much as they didn't have main roles, there was a bunch in the first one too, and it just, I guess maybe it was handled a little bit better, so it wasn't as noticeable. Whereas this one was very much like
I like that Tombstone worked at a go-kart track. I thought that was, you know what
I forgot about that.
He just never appeared again. I thought they were going to be like, oh, and he's here to help you out or some shit. Nah, he's Tombstone in it somewhere else.
Mysterio's whole thing was fucking cool, incorporating it like
by
that.
Some developers, like, I thought it was interesting. They really did a good job of playing with different side stories and making them mean something instead of just like even the stuff. There was something I heard, I think it was from Greg Miller, was saying this could easily be like a Games for Impact situation with everything they did around the girl that was deaf and how that whole side mission was handled. Like there is it was a very inclusive game.
Well, even accessibility, like Insomniac fucking leads accessibility with Naughty Dog. They do an amazing job with allowing people to play their games. Did anyone see? Okay, you can unlock the Noir Spider-Man from across the Spider-Verse. Did anyone see the thing online about if you go into accessibility? It's for accessibility. It's not like it's supposed to be cheat code. Let's say. You can change the world to be void of all color and basically turn... it's not black and white, it's like sepia.
Mode or whatever.
But it fits the Noir Spider-Man, and it's like that, like shit like that's cool that they even have the visual ability to change it like that, right?
Oh yeah. Like that and that game it's just dripping with money. Holy shit. This game is so expensive, from the licensed music to huge voice actors. And I love I'm gonna try to wrap this up real quick, but to go off what you're saying, Brian, of like how much time they let you not be Spider-Man. Like they're like, no, you being Peter, you're gonna go on this weird
cool,
fucking tutorial.
Let's ride a bike.
Yeah, ride a bike. And then you can ride a bike later too if you find one on the street.
It's a lot of riding
I didn't
bikes.
know that. And like you get that.
Yeah, all the different ways they allow you to do different stuff. Like I was telling Alan on one of the other shows, like when you got wingsuit into that slipstream, or when you're doing like the environmental challenges where it's just utilizing, it's like how many different ways can we use the DualSense? I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
you know, I love games that go lead into the tech.
Yeah. Derek, I want to end with you because you waited a little bit to play this. Like it released. I know what you were playing during then. We can't speak about it just yet. So waiting so long and then finally...
I love that we're keeping up the facade.
Well, finally playing this game. Yeah, we got to commit to it at this point. What will your initial impressions? I think we talked about it when you were on the show, I think. But like, give us your kind of quick overview of how you felt.
Yeah, I don't think we did, but yeah, my impressions going into this game was... Okay, it's going to be more Spider-Man. Alan, some other games are coming out soon. Some other things are coming out. I'm going to wait on this, right? I was in no rush. I still paid full price for it. I beat it in like 4 or 5 days. I just wrecked it over like a weekend. I just had a bunch of free time. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised by it because I was expecting it to just be more Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. I don't think I really kind of factored in how much the wingsuit and the control system refresh would actually impact the game. Like, these are simple things that don't really show well in a trailer. Like, you can, oh, cool, there's a wingsuit, like that's something, but you're just still punching people and doing the same city and whatever.
Yep.
But it really, really got me once you started getting into that flow and just how much faster you can explore this city.
It loads so quick. Like, so
fast. It's like, especially once you've upgraded all of your abilities and your swing speed and your like the boost that you can do. You just whip across this city in a way that I wanted to do in the first game. Mm-hmm. And a big thing that I think about with sequels is it doesn't have to be this way, but I would love for a sequel to make me not want to go back to the original because it's done so much more to pull it forward. Mm-hmm. Where the entire time I was playing Spider-Man 2, I was thinking, I don't want to play Spider-Man 1 because the swinging is so much slower. The wingsuit offers so much more versatility in terms of like just your choices. It's not just swing forward and like do some tricks. You can use the wingsuit, go into a slipstream, swing back out, dive down, swing off across the side, and then when you go into combat, the way that they've implemented the bumpers and the actual button layouts and how you can do your special abilities now is so much more engaging and dynamic. The boss fights are so much better. There were so many things about this game. They're just little things that are subtle enough that you don't really like pay attention to them, but they add up to make the experience far better than the predecessor. And I was very pleasantly surprised with the overall experience. I like the story. I think just as much, if not better than the first one. I think the dynamic that they had with Harry and him turning into a villain and coming in and like it was very well done from beginning to end. Very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I have a question actually, because remember the long preview we saw? I forget what it was. I think it was Game Awards last year. I don't remember. But there was a sequence where they're on the water and they're jumping through different construction zones. Did that happen in the game? Like, my mind is all like...
Yeah, it's a little different.
When in the game was that? I feel like they...
You're Miles, right? On the dock. And who are you chasing? You're chasing someone.
Lizard,
but
right?
It's both of you.
I think so.
They have Lizard captured, I think.
In the preview, it was Miles and Peter... And they're on the water, they're off the water, they're through oil rigs, they're flying all around.
They did have that, yeah. But Peter's, you don't play as Peter though. He's getting the symbiote. He's getting a little more angry and shit like that. So you have him on the comms, but I don't think you switch, because that was one thing leading into this game. I was like, how cool would it be to really structure a fight where they give you reason to switch between the two. They didn't do that, which it was just a cool wish. But I thought that the thing you're referring to, I thought it was one of those. It's in the game. It's just Miles.
Right. Maybe I just had forgotten that part.
And they cut that section up differently. There's certain sections that they insert. Like, I think there's the beginning, and then there's like a full like 15, 20-minute section, and then they go to the chase. So it's not one for one with the trailer.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, you go ahead. Don't worry.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things Derek was mentioning about Spider-Man 2 and how you don't want to go back to Spider-Man 1, that goes kind of, I think, across the board for a bunch of different players. My 5-year-old son is actually going to be 6 next week, which fucking blows my mind.
Yeah, that's wild.
He's that way too. I'm like, which Spider-Man game do you want to play? Because sometimes he likes playing Miles Morales because he knows he likes that one suit or whatever. He's like, I want to play the new one, and I'm like, why? He's like, because I love the wingsuit. And I'm like, so at 5 years old, it's like it's grabbing every demographic in a way where it's like this has been polished to a point where like you actually don't need to play the old ones. I don't know if that's good or bad, but like it just is, and it makes this game really cool.
Well, I think that kind of goes with it's what you know you're gonna get, but you're like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna get this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And like the last thing I want to note on Spider-Man, did any of you go through the options and turn off web assistance?
No, but I've seen the videos.
Have you seen this? People
smacking into buildings in the street. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So web assistance by default is on 8 out of 10. So it's like, it flows how you know it. If you put it to 0, it's like realistic. Like you have to like build momentum. You have to fight with the building that you're attached to. So like if you're attached to a building on the right, you're going to be like pulling really hard to the right. And it's just like, what the hell?
I'm just going to make a quick note to try turning off assist after this.
Yeah, I tried it down to, I think it was level 3 or 4, and I immediately turned it back off. Because it was right before one of the big like action set pieces. I think it was the one where you're going through all the portals. And I was just like, this is a terrible time to try and learn how to swing for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And immediately turned it off because it's one of those things that I think people requested that from the first game of having an option to really be more deliberate and like try more. It's a cool thing they added.
I think that's the whole thing. Is like Insomniac's like, yeah, you really want it? Yeah, here it is. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
The people wanted it. What I want to do before I get to the final Game of the Year, Pixel Candy 2023 Game of the Year, just announce the stragglers, and we don't need to go in depth on these. I'm just going to announce the ones that didn't make the list as honorary mentions, and these were basically, like I said before, stuff that everyone had on their list that other people just didn't play, so it pretty much didn't make the cut. So, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you guys thought that was going to be on the list.
I thought maybe.
It did not make the list. Cocoon, solid choice. That was one of Josh's. I also played that fantastic game. Viewfinder, really fucking cool game this year. Indie title, that was one of Brian's. Gunbrella,
also great.
Killer game. If anyone loves a good side-scroller, pixel fucking adventure,
did you only play it at
amazing.
my place, or did you buy it and play it yourself?
I didn't buy it yet. I've beaten the demo. I never. I played it at your place, and then I downloaded it on PC.
Yeah, it's just more of that, but it's great. It's basically I'm trying. It's you ever play Katana Zero? Everybody else?
It's pretty much a gunslinger Katana Zero type game.
Real good.
Final Fantasy 16 was another one that we had on there.
Demoed it up real nice.
Hi-Fi Rush. Fantastic game. I only played like a few hours, but what a fucking solid experience. Starfield. It has 2 points on this list.
I think I have it with 2 points.
It's Derek's. Derek's. And finally, Pizza Tower, which was one that Josh suggested, and I was like, what the fuck is Pizza Tower? And I ended up with those credits on Steam buying it, and still, what the fuck is this game? It's really cool. It's like Sonic the Hedgehog, but you're like an Italian man collecting pizza ingredients, and it's an absolutely acid trip of a time. So those did not make the list. Again, all honorable mentions, but the time has come, finally, after our longest episode ever, to announce our Game of the Year. And without waking up your significant other, can we get like a drum roll? Alan Wake 2 is our Game of the Year with a 40-point total. Every single one of us on all of our lists scored it as our number one. It is unanimous.
That's crazy.
This is the fucking winner. Holy shit, man. We've talked about this game at length on the show, so I don't know what else I can say other than like someone made a comment. I think it was Brian. You made a comment right at the start of the show that just like you couldn't go back from like one game to another or something like that. This game, if you play anything right after Alan Wake 2, it's just like you just played something that, in my opinion, is such an elevated gaming experience. It's like it really is like watching an A24 film that you can't get out of your fucking mind, but it's also a game, and it does the game part really fucking well too. So there's that, and graphically it looks amazing. There's all these elements that come together that once you wrap it up, it's hard to transition to anything and go, oh yeah, no, these are just games. Not to undermine anything, but I see Alan Wake 2, and this is maybe putting it on a bit of a pedestal. It's just a different beast. Like, it affected me differently. I experienced it differently. Like, it really was this art house fucking mesh of mediums between the way they use music, the way they use live action footage, gameplay, storytelling,
the wild sequence in the middle,
the wild dance number.
We can't talk about it because so many people haven't played this game, and it's the most unexpected shit I've ever seen.
I think people know that there is a crazy dance number. They're advertising it heavily now. Yeah. Okay. There's a 16-minute short film at the end of the game that you can watch. That's one of the most batshit crazy things in the world. There's something about this game that is so fucking unique, and everything bleeds.
And very unsettling.
Very unsettling, but in the best way possible as a survival horror experience. I walked away from this game, and during, just jaw to the floor. We've talked about it before, about the PC aspect to this game specifically. Cyberpunk's one thing. Like, Cyberpunk looks fucking phenomenal. I still don't think this right now, as of me recording this episode, is the craziest looking game I've ever seen in my entire life. Whether it be lighting, rendering, fucking just the way that it runs, like, it's smooth, but it's so realistic. I don't know if I mentioned on the show at any point, I was watching a documentary, like the actual team that's like going over the making of. Derek, I sent you like this whole thing. It's the amalgamation of all their making ofs. Yep. And Nicole was in the room, and I was like making breakfast or something. She comes down, she kind of glances up, like, you know, normally she doesn't care about this shit. She doesn't say anything. It's just playing, and she'll do her own thing. At one point, she's just like, Is this a game, or what are you watching? I'm just like, it's a doc on like the game I've been talking about, Alan Wake 2. She's like, what? This is a game? And I'm like, yeah. And she got really fucking interested, because they're not only talking about how the story works and how they came up with the narrative, how they're meshing the mediums, and how then they started talking about tech, about how to light the game and all these crazy things. And she was like thoroughly impressed by what she was seeing and blown away, not believing just on this quick glance that this was a video game. And that is one thing, until the next one comes out, that I'm just going to hold as like, this game has completely changed the way I look at visuals in a game, because I would just be playing it, and every 2 seconds I would have to stop and be like, fuck man, this is it's a game. Like, it looks like a live action show that I'm controlling. And I know we've joked for fucking decades. We've all at one point in our lives been like, it won't get better than this. I always make the joke of like booting up Gran Turismo on the PlayStation and like 1 and being like, there's no fucking game that'll ever look better than this. But we really are, man. Like, you look at Forza, right? Like, that's kind of the forefront of like graphics, because racing games really just focus on graphics. Forza, I think, is a good example of being like at the forefront of all that. This was the first game that was like you're controlling a human. It's a horror game. Like, it's not a racing game. You are exploring forestry. You're exploring New York in the dark place. That gave me that feeling when I see these racing games, you know, when a new console comes out and blows your socks off with the graphics. But it happened with this game. And I just can't say enough about the visuals on PC. I know on PS5 it still looks fantastic.
Not as good as PC, though.
It's not, but still, it doesn't take away, I'm sure that you can all speak to this, about everything else that it has. The narrative is still something that keeps me up at night, because I'm just like, wait, like, what did that one thing mean? Like, and we talked about it with this one person. Their theory kind of blew my mind. There's so many things that were left open at the game, but they still gave you a sense of closure and left you with like, that was a fucking incredible and well told story. And then they leave like the carrot dangling, being like, there's a little bit more. Like, you're gonna want to come back if there's DLC or a sequel 10 years, hopefully not from now. But yeah, this is kind of like what I said with Resident Evil 4. I don't know if I have much criticism. I'm just high on it, so maybe it'll take a couple of years to look back and be like, I didn't like this, and this. Fuck yeah, I don't know who wants to take over now. I love this game.
I can offer one tiny piece of criticism, but this criticism comes on the mechanics side of things, and it might have fucked with things too much on the story side of things. If you took away batteries and the flashlight, which I don't know about all of you, but for me, the flashlight, the combat became a bit clunky between flashlight and pistol. If you take that away and just make the enemies a bit tougher, I don't know. I think I kind of would have liked that better, just from a strictly gameplay perspective. But I know the flashlight and the idea of the flashlight and shadows in the dark place was such a pivotal thing in the story that maybe they couldn't. That was my only if I had to criticize anything, it would be that tiny little thing. But overall, this is like my second favorite game of all time, being only taken down by Metal Gear 1. This is like all time. This is for all the reasons Alan said, and the fact that I can't stop thinking about it. It's like that person you're with, dating, and like, you know, back in the day, whether you're with that person now or you're with them when you're just like, I need to see this person again, and then you're just like, oh, Spider-Man 2. Well, that's not the same. That's not Alan Wake 2. I guess I'll fucking play this game now. But like, that's how I knew it was special. Like, I knew this game was great. Alan and I talked about like crazy. We were messaging like crazy back and forth. I'm sure you were all doing the same with each other too. And I got to this point where I'm like, I didn't even realize how good this game was until I got to Spider-Man. Was a little bit annoyed that there wasn't more Alan Wake 2. Which is kind of
coming
crazy
though. It's
statement.
coming. There's DLC. Don't
But
worry.
you know what I mean? Like, that isn't that insane? It's like I still had at that point I had 70% of Spider-Man still to play, and I was a little bit pissed that I couldn't play more Alan Wake.
Like, it's a lot. Yeah.
So compelling. The hotel that you're in as Alan was
Silent Hill vibes
me.
to the max.
Crazy.
And that whole section gave me a lot of this game actually reflects a lot of the Silent Hill franchise, but the hotel was like
the hotel, and like, even I love the difference between when you were Saga and the way that was handled from the detective mode standpoint, and when you were Alan and how that was handled from a plot rewriting standpoint was fucking amazing, because it made you miss the other, so you wanted to kind of bounce between them. I think part of me wants to play the game where I play all of Saga and then I go play all of Alan.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this game was written like Memento, and I feel like if you play it in a different order, you're going to consume it a different way. And I kind of want to replay it. I want to replay it now just to see if that would be the case.
Speaking of which, have you ever watched? Has everyone here watched Memento? Does everyone know what that movie is?
Yeah.
I know. I've never watched it.
Josh, total sidebar. Make some time, like ASAP.
Like,
but
possibly tonight.
Yeah, like if you can squeeze it in before you go to bed. No. No joke, I have watched that movie backwards, scene for scene. Not backwards like it's rewinding the dialogue, but you know what I'm saying. Each scene playing before the last. Do it. It's fucking weird.
How do you do that? Is there a way to
It was on I think I have the DVD version. There's one DVD version that has it's called like the rewind mode.
Can I borrow that?
Let me check if mine has it, and then if it does. If not, search on Amazon. There's a version of it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I bet you it's on YouTube by now.
Oh yeah,
that's true too.
But yeah, you're right. It's the way you consume that fucking story. We all, I think, did it differently too, which is so cool. I was one of the players that went back and forth constantly. Like, I would kind of wait till I was a little, not even tired. I never got tired, but it was more that I missed, like you said, the other side, and I'd want to switch back, and I kept doing that. But that would be really cool to stick to one.
And all the tie-ins to the universe, holy shit! Like, I watched, and I remember going through this, and Alan's like, "Do you remember who this is? Do you remember who this is?" I'm like, "No, I don't." So I went and watched a 12-minute GameSpot video.
Oh,
that was top, like, absolutely top shelf, because it explained Alan Wake 1, Alan Wake American Nightmare, and Control. And it went through all the things that were important.
He's done a summary on 2, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that to you.
You sent it to me. Watch that. Phenomenal. Once I watched that, I'm like, oh yeah, Ahti's this weird fucking janitor that shows up everywhere.
It's like a celestial being.
And like, oh yeah, Scratch. I forgot what Scratch meant. Yeah. And oh yeah, fucking Tom, what was his name? Tom, the fucking scuba diver dude.
I don't know why I'm also blanking out of the
Zane.
four of us.
Thomas
Thomas
Zane,
Zane.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
Thomas
Jesus.
Zane. The whole Thomas Zane thing, I was like, that was a huge part of one that I completely forgot about.
Yeah.
And like being
I love what they
reminded
do
of all
with
that.
it.
Oh my god. It's just like, and it's a the whole idea of a spiral and not a loop is mind blowing. Because as soon as he said it, I was like, oh my god. Like,
I do like that last line. That's such a great way to almost like tie it back to the first game while simultaneously going in its own metaphor of like, no, well, we're actually not tying it back to the first game. We're going forward. We're going down,
Yeah.
down, down.
Yeah.
And it's
Or up,
it's
up, up.
great. Or yeah.
Well, that's it. Josh, was it you that didn't watch the movie?
I haven't seen the 16-minute movie yet.
oh
Okay.
What?
man.
Yeah,
Oh man, I didn't think
they
so.
totally missed the whole short film in the cinema, and
you just
I think
watch it
I
in
mentioned this
cinema
to you.
and
It's easily missable.
But I
was
mentioned the
actually gonna
whole
ask that.
the whole ending to the film was the lead in the film comes to the same conclusion of it's not a loop, it's a spiral. So there's an added layer of like that short film could probably be dissected a million different ways, but it's really cool that it ends the same way. So when you have that final climax of him coming to the realization, it's like, what is the future of this story?
If it didn't have the imagery it did, I'd say watch that before bed. But like, maybe don't, because
It's dark, yeah.
Okay, so Memento, then watch the 16-minute short film, and then if you can find Memento in reverse before you go to bed tonight.
and
just
then we'll
real
do this
quick.
podcast all over again.
Yes.
Because we're talking about Alan Wake.
Well,
for
I-
the
Yeah,
rest.
start from the beginning.
And then play the game again because you're going to need the context of what you got
You
from
need
the
the
movie.
context.
for
I'll
things
make
to make
one
sense.
and control.
And yeah, play all those games again.
Like it's very interesting seeing a game that is so clearly written by one dude. Like it's not actually written by one dude, but you
Yeah.
could see that it's his like brainchild to the point where you're like, oh, this like he's playing Casey. You're like, this isn't as like tongue in cheek as we think. Like this whole Sam Lake being in the game is like so much more literal than we think. Of like him literally, he is the writer of the game, but he's also the villain because the like Scratch is the villain, but also Alan is Scratch, and like all this like just keep going, just keep going.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, this like honestly, a lot of this probably just comes from his head, and he's like, it's just so good to see a game that doesn't give a shit about being like, I don't know, like
Linear.
like being like like being like digestible in a way that'll be consumed by the masses. Like it's a third person shooter that is horror based. Like you could say those are two giant mediums, but not all of them have a big musical sequence in between. Not all of them have like
Sam.
just
So
long
unhinged.
ramblings. Like not all of them inject humor in the same way that Sam does. And just seeing Alan Wake 2 just constantly like take you back and be like, no, you think this is going? No. But not like an obnoxious way, but in a way where you're like, wait, what? Like
Yeah.
whenever you get to a screen that says end of chapter, you're like,
Oh, and then you
Well,
know
you're
the
like-
music's coming, and it's the
Oh my
most
God,
fucking
music.
blissful moment of your life.
One thing I want to say on Josh's point there is that it's one of those things where this entire game, when you really think about it, could have just been all the changes and all the craziness could have been Alan scratching shit out and rewriting it. And we were experiencing that being played out. And when I thought through that lens, I'm like, oh my God, this fucking thing.
oh my, full vulnerability. I don't, and everyone's gonna call me an idiot. I was like, why is his name Scratch? And then like it hit me, and I was like, I'm like brain dead. Like I'm like unwell.
But to be fair, it's easily missable. That's why it's important to watch the GameSpot thing if you didn't
Well,
play
yeah,
the first game. They don't
think
touch
one
on
of
it a
the-
whole bunch in the game.
Yeah, one of the
thing,
biggest
too.
things too is not just the meta narrative about like the writer within the writer, but it feels like the entire concept of like building a story about a writer who's trying to write something and his ideas are coming to life is just Sam Lake writing about his own struggles with writer's block and his own issues and like how he goes about creating things and the dynamic that he has with the things that he's created, and he making Max Payne and those kind of things, and like how those things come back with his face out there. It's so much of a deep dive into this single person's psyche and their day-to-day life and their mind that I don't think you get in many games. Like it seems like a wholly unique experience to this one specific story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like he's not like afraid to like poke at almost like holes or corniness about himself as like a writer too. Like there's a point where Saga like when she gets like the darkness in her kind of thing, where like she's like, oh, like another white guy writing like trying to control me, this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I had this conversation with Dylan and I was like, it felt kind of out of place because I was like, she's never had that struggle where she was like, you know, she's very successful at her job, she's very like she's in like a position of power, this and that, and I was like, this isn't about her at all. This is about Sam Lake again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my god, it's because this is like a criticism that he would probably get, and it's like a relatively valid one too, where it's like, and he's like calling himself out in that way through the direct character, which is just paralleling the relationship.
It goes
like,
deep.
There's so many layers.
He even put himself in the game beyond
Yeah.
playing the character as himself. When he's tied up in that chair, scared for his life, and he ends up running away, like. That whole sequence, like, I mean, you can interpret that fucking any which way you want. But yeah, this game, to all our points, like, we're going to be talking about it for years. And it's just like what Brian said with the original Metal Gear. Rewind back to when that fucking came out. I'm still looking back at, like, okay, what the fuck happened in that game? And then we have 2, 3, 4, and 5, and how all those affect the narrative we were told in 1. Just like the connected universe is doing with Alan Wake 2 now, and we're going to get Control 2 in the future, and whatever they end up doing with their new IPs that hopefully tie into the whole universe, they have just built this incredible, like, absolutely, I don't know, addictive thing. Like, I'm so obsessed with Control and the idea of having this bureau that looks after all of their future IPs. That they could create whatever the fuck they want, and it can be the weirdest thing, and it's like, yeah, no, they've built the world to be this weird thing, and don't worry, Control's going to look after it, and then when the Control 3 comes out, it'll
be fine.
Yeah, and it's such a fucking cool way. And I also think they used the right amount of Control in Alan Wake 2. They didn't they didn't mesh it together where it overtook the narrative, it influenced it too heavy. It was just enough. You got that little bit, that control tower where they're like feeding, you know, there's an AWE going on here. And the repairman comes, and that's your first, like, oh, this is fucking cool. There's like documents from the Federal Bureau of Control, and
The condescending.
where did you? Okay, can you please explain where you got that,
Oh,
Josh?
this thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course I 3D printed this. Yeah,
That's awesome.
of course I did.
That is
Yeah, and I
so
painted
cool.
it.
I
Tried to
even
hide that
Okay,
shit
you
from
guys
us. You were holding that earlier, and we're like, "What the fuck is that?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?"
Ah, no, it's just-
I might need you to three. How much does material cost? I might need you to 3D print me one of these
That's
bad
right,
boys.
but-
Everyone will get one of these, don't you?
Commemorative
Yeah.
token for the 100th episode.
To add on to what you're saying, like, they don't waste your fucking time, and I appreciate that. Like, they're not like, oh,
Although-
meanwhile at the FBC.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
too much-
There was
Say
too
that.
much dude dick for the first little while of that game. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But it was a little bit of a waste of time. But
It was a ballsy move to open up on a huge hairy man's ass. That was that was the
Full Troy Scott.
first thing.
It was super intriguing though. Like it was unexpected. You
Yes.
expected to
Oh,
play
yeah.
this game. You're like, we're gonna play a Saga. We're gonna play as Alan Wake. This is what I know is gonna happen.
That's true. That's
And
true.
Honestly, like as much as I was the entire first 10, 15 minutes, I was thinking, why am I just walking around as this hairy dude naked in the forest? The questions that put in my head and the intrigue that built
Yeah.
was so much more important than just having like, okay, we're playing a Saga and she's going off into the forest to investigate a murder.
Yeah.
It gripped me, even though it's something that you wouldn't normally be affected by. It was,
The
Oh,
back
dude,
hair
yeah.
on PC was rendered brilliantly. Like the ass hairs,
How
it was
unfortunate.
all just next level. Like I couldn't get over
Was
it.
it billowing in the wind as he walked?
all the roles and
Probably. I
everything.
don't really
Yeah.
remember, but yeah, probably.
It was a great intro. Like, I love
Yeah.
that. Like, sure, if that means that's what I love in an intro, sign me up then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, it
Better
got
float
me
your boat.
where I was like, who the hell is this? And then, you find out
Was
it's
very
Nightingale
intriguing.
from, like, the first
Yeah.
game, and you're like, wait a second. 'Cause, like,
Nightingale?
I went through all of the recaps and stuff, and I was like, wait, Nightingale? Oh my god, blah, 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 whatever. But it's like, it doesn't waste your fucking time being like, remember Control, remember Alan Wake. They're like, no, okay, Alan, what happened?
Just forward, yeah.
I've been here, and I've been here. And
It's not a lot of exposition. It's not a lot of exposition on like, okay, here's a scene. Now we're just going to tell you as the audience what happened in these previous games, so you're up to speed, and then we'll move forward. They just keep moving forward. Like they just keep fucking the train going, and you're like, I was obsessed with the first one. Control was still to this day one of my favorite games, so I felt like I was pretty prepped. But even I did like research and watch these videos that Brian is talking about going in, so that once it happened, like I'm wondering someone who has absolutely no idea, like they don't even know what Alan Wake is, and they just pick up Alan Wake 2. I'm curious how that works for a person like that, and I'm hoping it's just as intriguing to cause them to go back and retroactively look into all this shit. You know what I mean? Because it's that interesting.
I think a big thing that helped out this game in terms of it making sense and it not having to have a lot of exposition was the mind plays, where everything that happened that was important, you could go back and you saw it there again, and it was reiterated, and you could always go back to it. It was done in such a dynamic way where it made sense within the story, but it also reinforced, hey, there's like 18 different things going on, but here's how it all makes sense, and you can visualize it and see it. And for me, I've followed this story, as complex as it is, I've followed it better than a lot of other stories that I've experienced, and I think that that's a huge reason why. It's genius the way
it
they
makes
did
it so digestible, and like the fact that like it's not only kept to that one board, but it's like pretty much all there. Then you can go to the profiling, which oh my god, the voice cast in this is amazing. And the fact that the only person that got nominated was Saga, I was like, really?
I know.
There's so much good here. Like Saga, yeah, she did great. I love Saga as a character as well. But I was like, really? Like that's it? Like even like what is it? Yoko and the brothers.
The brothers,
Yes.
When Tor.
Yako.
No, that,
Yako and Ilma,
Ilmo,
yeah.
And then
when you got like their dark
those
version
commercials,
of them, I like lost my mind. I was like, these guys have range, and the commercials.
The commercials are next level great.
I'm drinking wine like an asshole.
Turtleneck or whatever the fuck he says. I was like, this is an instant classic line I will never forget.
The arc that they go through of like this innocent brother who's like just doing these funny commercials and then just like, oh, can we go into any spoilers in this, or like I guess.
I mean, we can hint at it. It basically shows them. You're like, oh, are you the bad guys? And then they're not, but then maybe they are, and all these revelations come about. The entire scene in the jail when we finally see for the very first time Scratch come to light in the real world. That's as spoiler free as I can get. That stands as one of my
a spoiler section of like 10 minutes so we can talk about spoilers.
I don't know. Do we have the time? How late do you guys want to stay up? It's like past midnight right now. It's been like a 3-hour show. I just, that scene stands out in my head. That's something I'll never forget. Like when I think of all the old games that I've kept in the back of my mind as like, those are my favorite games, and here are all the moments that stand out to me. That jail scene, man. And is it Ilmo or Yako? I forget who kind of is involved in that scene. Fuck. They're both there, but yeah, let's not talk about what happens. It's intense. It's really cool. There's a cool gameplay section that follows. The pacing of this game is just so well done to where I never was bored. Like I don't even backtracking. I know Derek and I did a ton of backtracking. Did both of you go and get a lot of the collectibles, or did you kind of just play through and summarize? Yeah.
Yeah, with when once you got the bolt cutters and stuff. Yeah.
See,
that's so weird because it's like the game's not actually that big. It's like it's from like if you really think about it, there's only like
four areas,
but they're like dense, like they're thick, and it's all killer, no filler kind of thing.
Yeah,
where you're like, these are realized areas, and it's the same with the cast. It's not a big cast, but you're like, oh my god, like each of these people are like pretty thick. Like the only ones that I can really think of that I'm like, what were you doing again? Is that couple at the beginning that sees Nightingale? But like they're kind of just to introduce the profiling mechanic.
Yep.
But like other than that, it's like a really good cast that's like intertwined, like that, like the old lady. Like I was blown
Cynthia.
away. Cynthia,
man, the light lamp lady.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I haven't jumped that hard in a
in the library at the home.
Window, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yes.
was horrifying.
No one saw that coming. And again, brilliant.
Amazing. It's just, it shows like that team at Remedy is like, yeah, we could do action, but also remember where we came from. Like, it was like
I guess
all
that
the
was
fucking jump scares with her every time. It happens like numerous times, and every single time. Like, I'm sitting here, all the lights are off, I'm in my chair like right up against the screen, and just fucking tension of like Josh was actually over and I was trying to recreate. I was like, man, there's some jump scares where I really like, and I tried to reenact a jump scare and I tossed my controller across the entire room. I'm like, oh.
Well, I think that was one of the biggest things about it, was that it's not so much that there's always combat, because it's very sparse. It's just the fact that there could always be combat, and you're always on your toes of like, something could happen at all times, but it often doesn't. And that makes when it does happen even more surprising and even more nerve-wracking.
Well, one thing I want to say, because Brian, you had mentioned about the combat, and you kind of preferred if they went a different route with the whole like shielding of light and all that. I actually really liked it. In the first Alan Wake, it got really tough. When you had 2-3 enemies, it became almost impossible. That game was pretty frustrating if you go back and try and play it. I thought they did it really fucking well here, where that system, that mechanic of being like, okay, I have 3 people. You got one of the fucking dudes running around throwing like knives at you, which was actually pretty tough to avoid, and then 2 others slowly charging you. That little mechanic of like, how many charges do I have? I can only fight one at a time. I cannot take them all on unless I have like a flare. But even that it's just going to break the shield. It's not going to demolish them unless you have like the maybe one reserve of the flash gun, right? Like, the way that they did that, I thought was really fucking cool. And compared to 1, it's not the most advanced combat system.
1 for sure.
But to Derek's point of it being spared, and, you know, you go through the game, and there's just very rarely, you never know when it's going to happen. But then it does, and you have this cool thing of like, well, fuck, like, I really got to think about how I'm going to take on just 2-3 enemies. Like, it becomes pretty overwhelming quick.
I totally agree. Something to remember, 1 was never supposed to be a survival horror game. It was an action game.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I remember when they announced Alan Wake 2, they're like, we're doing survival horror. And it was like, what? Like not like they can't do it. But it was like, A, hopping off control. B, have you guys gone back to play Alan Wake 1? Have you done the
We all got the remaster when it dropped. Yeah.
It's very much a product of its time. Like, it's like, the mandatory sections, a lot of combat. Like, it's like, it ends up, it's very much an Xbox 360 game.
Yeah.
And it's like, just to see the stark difference here, moving to survival horror. I don't know about any of you, but I honestly didn't engage with combat a lot by the end. Because I didn't have to, and like you get pretty damn good at that dodge.
You can dodge.
The dodge clutch.
There was areas where you didn't have a lot of batteries, and it was just like there's no option here. You just have to scurry out of there. But that leans it more into survival horror. You're not supposed to have a ton of ammo. I like the variety of weapons too. Like, to Alan's point, flares, flare gun, flashlight. Like, you had a bunch of different options, which was cool.
If I had any nitpicks, it'd be that the game is kind of easy towards the end. Like you said, not engaging with combat. By the time I finished the game, I was absolutely stacked with items.
Same.
I played the entire game on hard, like the hardest difficulty you can play it on. And by the end of it, I had like 15 flares. I had just tons of bullets, tons of charms. I was stacked with items. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, I have to start just using like this giant like rocket-powered flare because I just want to get rid of it because I need the inventory space. And like a survival horror game shouldn't really result in the end game being just like blasting through because you have to or you want to, but it's small little nitpick.
Well, they do have, what is it, they're calling it the nightmare mode, whatever it ends up being. There's going to be a harder difficulty. Maybe
I'm excited.
That will satisfy it. I'm hoping it gives us a little more.
Flare, Derek. Best of luck. Here's your one.
What the whole game you can use it one fucking time.
Just gotta run.
Oh, but goddamn, man, what a game. Absolutely deserving of thing. I don't know if it's going to win at like the Game Awards. I really hope it does, but I also hope that Baldur's Gate wins. So I will be happy either way. But yeah, that is our top 10, I guess top 18 with the random games there that kind of leaked in, 19 with Lethal Company. 100 episodes. Hell yeah.
Wow.
Three hours.
Alan,
This went for, so thank you guys.
Alan, you're the only one who's done 100 episodes.
That's true.
Wow.
Because I haven't been on all of them, and Derek and Josh have both been on ones, but I haven't. And I've been on with Josh, and I've been on with Derek. But
That's true.
I haven't been here for different reasons.
Well, and I even
You're
did
the
one.
only one.
I did one by myself, which was a very interesting experience, and I think it went actually pretty decent.
I remember that. It was a good episode.
But hey, I was telling Josh, this whole thing started because I didn't know what to do during COVID, and it originally started with I kind of wanted to do like a clothing brand, but for like gaming culture, if that makes any sort of sense. Like that was where it got birthed from, and here we are. So I don't know where the fuck this is gonna be like a year, 2 years, whatever from now. It might be dead, it might grow into something else, but it's kind of fucking cool that we did 100 episodes, that we just talked for 3 hours about our favorite games from this year. So round of applause for everybody without waking up your significant other.
I fully thought you were just going to launch a
how much
clothing
we
line.
swear. I would have bought some clothing. Listen, Grayson doesn't like how much we swear. It's like, Daddy, why are you and Zio swearing so much? And I'm like, well,
In person or on the podcast? Does he
On the podcast.
does he listen to the show?
he does. Well,
You go
when
into
we're
his
in the
room, he
car-
has a little boombox, and he's just listening to every episode.
No, so what happens?
been
We go in
writing
the
in.
car. We go in the car, and he's like, "Daddy, I want to hear you and Zio on the radio."
That's
so I turn on the
cute.
podcast, and we listen to it. He's like, "Why are you guys swearing so much?"
Oh.
And I'm like, "Listen, those are our words, not yours." So continue on.
The other, when we were over at your house, and I don't know what he said, I'm just paraphrasing, where you said "for fuck's sakes" on something, and he said it back, and both you and Cheryl were like, "You do not say that word." He's like, "Well, Dad says it all the fucking time," and I'm like, that's great.
It's just do as I say, not as I do type situation.
Oh, whatever, it's just a swear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for doing this. It's after midnight as of recording, so I know some of us have to work. I
damn,
don't,
it's 6:30 in
but
the
I know.
morning.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for doing
Maybe
this. That's going to be it from us for this episode. Thanks to everyone for listening, as always, for the last 100 episodes, and we'll catch you guys next week.